efforts and results in their campaigns. The Mint Marketing Awards will felicitate true leaders and impactful campaigns in predominant categories such as content marketing, marketing cognition with technology, and the Marquee Leadership Awards. So it's heavily content and knowledge packed evening, and I truly hope you enjoy the entire event as much as we loved curating it. There's a lot to learn and take home some great insights. Thank you and enjoy the evening.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bhalla, for those words. In fact, I'm sure all attendees are eagerly looking forward to not just the knowledge sessions, but also the Gala Awards evening. So thank you once again for that welcome address, for that warm welcome to all of our attendees. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's now march ahead, because I'm sure all of you are eager to also understand the context surrounding this interesting theme that was chosen for the summit. Now, to set the context for all of you, and of course to introduce the theme for all of you, I'd also like to invite Mr. Jaideep Mehta, CEO Mosaic Digital and Head Mint. And in fact, in the past, he's also been an advisor to the CEOs of the investment and tech ecosystem. And from 2011 to 2017, he was the managing director, IDC India and South Asia. In fact, under his leadership, IDC India was conferred the CIO Choice Award for IT Advisor of the Year 3 years consecutively, 2014, 15, and 16. He's also been awarded the Leadership Award for contribution to market research by the World Marketing Congress in 2014. So on that note, in order to set the context, let me please bring on the main screen Mr. Jaideep Mehta.
Thank you, Kavya. And I'd also say thank you, Rajan, for doing a fabulous opening, making my job very, very easy. And of course, he's our marketing guru internally. Warm welcome to all of our guests. And I'll just have make it very, very brief here. I think, the marketing community, as indeed the wider business community, has been going through a set of challenges which were triggered by the onset of the pandemic. But the follow-on of that was, economic recession, demand collapse, and just continuous turbulence, which every business is now almost getting used to. Through all of this, marketeers have been challenged to keep the plane on track, to ensure that even as physical space was created between a company and their customers, they were able to actually bridge it through digital marketing, through innovative forms of messaging, through the use of social platforms, and so many other different technologies and innovations that we've seen kind of come to the fore. Now, as we look into the future, we are now seeing some of the social media giants actually betting the house on new technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality, which promise to create a completely new paradigm of personalized experiences. Through all this, marketers have been challenged with new privacy regulations, the changes in cookie policies, and all kinds of other roadblocks which have made them zigzag and made them change course, but at the same time, keep their eyes firmly on the goal. And the goal, of course, is always customer delight. The goal is always to meet the financial requirements of the business. And the goal is to continue to build the competitive moat that surrounds every business. In that sense, the pandemic has made marketers strategic leaders. And the whole concept of escape velocity, which Rajan so eloquently spoke about, is really applied to marketing in the context of differentiating a company from its competition and getting them closer and closer to their customers. And indeed, opening up entire new markets, creating new channels as they look at new digital platforms, creating new communities of engagement, and really making sure that every rupee which is spent on marketing and advertising has got a very tangible line of sight ROI. In conclusion, I'd like to just thank 3 sets of people today. One, our speakers who are giving us the most precious commodity, their time, to come and share their wisdom with us and some of their experiences with us from all over the world. You would have seen the speaker lineup. We are blessed to have the support of the senior most leaders in the industry. And that's what really is the foundation of the Mint Marketing Summit 2021. A big shout out and a big thanks to our jury as well. As you will find out later in the evening, The jury deliberations were extraordinarily detailed, I dare say, for our knowledge partners, Equator. Very, very stressful, though Equator did a fabulous job in ensuring the right process, a robust methodology. And at the end of it, the companies and the leaders who are going to be recognized in the Mint Marketing Awards later in the evening really did bubble to the top on the back of some serious marketing excellence. And the third set of folks I would like to thank are all of you, our guests and our viewers, who are taking out time to be with us and helping to make this a very powerful and influential platform. Our brand promise is always to send you away at the end of this conference with some actionable insights, some food for thought, and hopefully at least one or two things you can think about implementing on Monday morning as you go back to work. With that, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you to all of our sponsor partners, especially MoEngage and Facebook. And thank you to all of those folks who are helping to make this event a huge success. And may you generate escape velocity through this year. Kavya, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jaydeep, for those endearing words. And I'm sure with all that enthusiasm that you've shared, it's definitely passed on to all our attendees who are looking forward eagerly in order to be part of these knowledge sessions and the awards evening. So thank you once again, Jaydeep. Thank you very much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take that enthusiasm forward because it's now time to deep dive, in fact, very quickly into the keynote topic. We do believe that when we talk about storytelling per se, when we look at the kind of narratives we come across in order to communicate a message, the aim has always been to ensure that the viewer or the consumer feels something, enough to inspire them or for that matter to take action, which is why a very pertinent topic that we are focusing on, which is to do with storytelling. And that brings me to the keynote topic. Storytelling continues to remain the heart and soul of modern marketing. And none other than the keynote speaker, Mr. Prasoon Joshi, the CEO, McCann World Group India and Chairman APAC, to share his thoughts around this very important topic for all of you. So with that, let's deep dive into this session.
For Mint Marketing Summit. It's an absolute honor to be here amongst all of you. I was requested to talk about storytelling in the world of marketing. And the first question which comes to your mind is that why is that storytelling is important in the world of marketing? You do not normally link these two together. But all of us know here that a brand is a narrative. It's a narrative which is very carefully woven together. So there is a physical form, which is the product, and then there is a form which is born out of imagination or which is non-physical in nature, which is your narrative, which is your brand narrative. It's almost like the human beings. We have a physical body and a conceptual narrative. For someone with, if a lion enters a room full of people, there are bodies for that lion. But for all of us, we are narratives. We have a name, we have a story, but those stories are in our head. They live in that space, that conceptual space. And that's how brand narratives also reside in the minds and hearts of people. That's the reason when a brand narrative gets hurt, it's very difficult to repair it, because the threads are very different than the physical threads. You have to know the brand really well, you have to know the narrative very well. I have been part of such campaigns where the crisis happened in the brand narrative. And I know how difficult it is to be able to, thread by thread, to get back to the narrative, which is an intricate beam. All of you know here, how important storytelling in a brand in the marketing world is. But still, I would just try and share my experience. The first thing I would do when I look at a brand and been asked to be part of the narrative or contribute to it, to try and put my finger at why. Why in the first place this brand exists? What was the raison d'etre? What was the reason? What was the genesis of this brand? How this company started? How this brand was launched? Because there is huge amount of truth hidden there. And that is why, which needs to be examined and understood very clearly. Not often that you would become part of a brand journey right from the inception of it. Though I have been fortunate to be part of brands since the inception till a very long time. But nevertheless, you got to, whichever point you get in, you got to understand this why very well, this purpose of the brand, this intent of the brand, because this is going to be the guiding force when you are going to create the narrative. That's what my experience tells me. Your product, your service, why was it launched? What was the purpose? What was the intent? I remember doing these campaigns like Thanda Matlab Coca-Cola, where the marketing narrative was very clear that we are trying to reach out to the larger, to the deeper India, to the grassroots. And of course, the campaign, the advertising campaign was very much part of it. But it was a larger exercise, a marketing exercise, which the campaign was part of. So I used the lexicon of people, I created characters, I wrote stories, which was part of this larger narrative, which is, all these streams are flowing together. Currently, I'm involved with Dettol, where, I remember writing Dettol Ka Dhula, which is drawn from the phrase Doodh Ka Dhula, and try to draw parallel to be almost the last word in hygiene. And if you see, a lot of the streams are flowing together here. The social awareness campaign about hygiene they're doing, Banega Swachh India, or teaching Dettol to kids how to wash hands. I think all these little streams are contributing towards a larger narrative here. And that's where I say why you're doing it, the purpose and intent should be very clear. After why comes what. What is that story? And that's where the art of storytelling comes. That's where imagination plays a very important role. It's important to understand that here a lot of subjectivity could be there, because they have different vantage points. See, imagine a river flowing and somebody swimming in the river and trying to swim against the tide. And you ask this person, what is the nature of river? And this person will tell you that river is aggressive and fighting against the waves. Now imagine a person who's standing on the river bank and admiring river, the waves. This person will tell you the river is quiet, calm, peaceful, meditative. There's a word called Sakshi Bhav in people who practice yoga. There's Sakshi Bhav there. So very different experiences with the same river. So different stories will come out of it, because the vantage point is different. So it's important to know that there could be subjectivity when it comes to art of storytelling. I remember a story. You know how I remember the story again after a long time. I was traveling in Italy, and I was sitting with my wife, and there was this bird which was singing at a distance. Cuckoo, 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 cuckoo. I instantly remembered that as a child who grew up in Uttarakhand, in Almora, when this bird, the same sound, used to come from the jungle, and my grandmother used to tell me the story of this bird, which in a nutshell went like this: that there was this girl, a beautiful girl, who got married into a distant village from where she was born. And on the day of Bhaiya Dooj, which is where the brothers and sisters meet, there's a ceremony. On the day of Bhaiya Dooj, this girl was waiting for her brother to arrive. And the tradition is to feed your brother, and because he's coming from a long distance, a faraway village. So this girl was waiting for the brother to come. And the brother, because coming from a faraway village, got delayed. And the mother and the sister, waiting for him, went off to sleep. The brother arrives and looks at his sister, who is blissfully asleep. She's looking like an angel. Brother looks at her and doesn't have courage, or doesn't feel like disturbing her sleep. He just blesses her on her forehead and leaves. After some time, the girl gets up, and the villagers tell her that your brother was here, didn't you meet your brother? And she says, oh, my brother was hungry and he must have come. Oh God, I'm so terribly heartbroken that my brother is, I couldn't meet and couldn't feed my brother. And the story goes that, because of sorrow, she couldn't survive, and she became a bird. And since then, she's been saying these words, Pebucco, Mesetti. My brother came and I kept on sleeping. My brother was hungry, I kept on sleeping. What a beautiful story, told in a beautiful way. Now this story, I got reminded of this story in Italy, where the bird exists, but I do not know whether the story is the same. There could be a different story out there. So the stories are also born out of experiences, culture, milieu. There is an intricate fabric out there. I remember telling a story in one of the brands, Happy Dent, a chewing gum brand, which used to clean your teeth and make it brighter. And I remember creating this story where the entire world was full of human bulbs. Everybody is a bulb, and the protagonist of this ad was a bulb who was employed as a chief bulb in a chandelier of a king's palace. And it was a kind of a, fantastical world which I created with that, with the help of technology and great direction. But this is also born out of the kind of world I grew up in. Imaginative storytelling, mythical storytelling. So this is the art of storytelling, where you know what your story is. And after this comes the craft of storytelling. I think we have increasingly started undermining the importance of craft today. And I think craft is almost meditative. Craft is where the X factor enters. The how. That's where you say, this work gives me goosebumps. This story makes me feel something which is unexplainable. Something happens to me. कुछ होता है मुझे मेरे अंदर. That कुछ होता है, that something which you can't explain is an X factor, which is, achieved out of great craft. And that's where you require masters of the craft. Very, very important in storytelling, how you tell the story. Well, I'm not saying that, you look at folk, you sometimes feel confused. Being masterful with something is something which maestros achieve. I mean, you feel that probably it's too big a word, but it could be part of a folk tradition where you've experienced that feeling, because for years it has been chiseled. A folk music or folk piece of work is like a stone which is rolling with the river for ages, and now it's looking like somebody has chiseled it. It's passed through hands for generations. That's why it's so beautiful. So craft is very, very important here. In Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, we talk about rasotpatti. The moment can give you the feeling. The moment is a suspended reality. It can give you that feeling in that moment. It can accentuate. It can strike a chord with you, which is difficult to explain, which is only achieved through a great craftsmanship. And if you look at our great craftsmen, they have a certain relationship with what they do. We increasingly undermine that relationship. We think everything is done for the market and there is a market standard we have to match. There is a certain personal commitment which an artist or craftsman have. That is also part of storytelling. I think great craft is achieved through personal commitment as well. You are only eavesdropping into somebody's dedication to his or her work or her craftsmanship. You're lucky that you're eavesdropping into that. And do you think that these things don't mean anything when you're telling stories in the world of marketing? They do. Yes, more so in the creative world. But when you talk about storytelling, you talk about creativity, which is everywhere, which is required as well for storytelling in the world of marketing as well. Now let me talk a little about the challenges we are facing in storytelling today. I think that one of the challenges which I face is that earlier we used to have an active performer and a passive receiver. Somebody who's performing and somebody who's receiving, receptive there. Now we talk a lot about participation, which has given birth to active receiver. So you have an active storyteller and an active receiver. What do I mean by that? That if you are telling a story to someone, that someone is more eager to tell his or her story to you. As a result, it's many more storytellers today. Gone are the days when you used to get this passive receiver, which was easier to communicate with. But today, with a democratization of platforms, ease of telling story, at least the modes of telling stories, everybody is a storyteller. And you're dealing with this active listener. What can you do then? You have to make sure you stir up the imagination and steer the imagination in the direction where your brand narrative wants to go. Another challenge which I face is, and all of us do, is the attention span. We often hear about the human attention span falling to 8 seconds, which is 1 second less than the goldfish. And we often hear about front loading of the messages and in advertising a lot. But at the same time, I feel, yes, the short format is very popular. Short format is what today's world is about. But at the same time, you see people do binge watch a long series. So the long format is also what they're consuming. We can't just ignore it, can't be obsessed with the short format. It's important to understand the short format, but it's also important to know that what people are looking for is something which excites them, which engages them. Today, also need to understand that people have almost an indigestion of content. They're snacking on the content the whole day. Gone are the days when you waited for your favorite dish, when you to reach home and have your favorite dish which has been cooked. You have been completely, overfed during the day with all kinds of content, all kinds of, you have got a content indigestion almost. So at that time, you are actually not going to go for something which is regular. You're actually something which has to be exceptional to be able to enter your space. Where if you compare it with earlier, which was a content deprived, or almost a generation of people who used to wait every Friday for a film or very limited content available, it was easier there to tell your story and register your story. So today your story is fighting with many stories in a chaotic world. In this world today, you also see a lot of waves are created. Waves of discussion, waves of ideas, social waves, social activism. A lot of waves are created, a lot of brands try to ride those waves. And somewhere forget that they have to create waves. They used to create waves. Their narrative is in their own waves, which they should create. Merely riding existing waves is not going to, sometimes can derail them. It's important to remember so not only riding waves, you to not forget creating waves. A lot of brands do falter here. In the world of hyperconnectivity today, and also data world, where AI probably is what people talk about a lot, and that everything is data, and data can probably generate narratives also, we talk about. Well, data can generate. We are hearing about AI script writers these days. But where I feel probably AI will have a challenge is that AI does not have the first-hand experience from where the narrative emerges from where the inception is. If I went to attend a funeral, suppose, and I experience the entire place, the entire narrative of that place. There are a lot of things which I've sensorially consumed. The heat, the faces, the sounds. And I came back and wrote something, a story about it. AI has that story, but AI does not have my first-hand experience. I think going back to where the genesis of your narrative is, it's important that the genesis of narrative is understood very well. I think all the fragments put together can generate a narrative, but more important is the core of it, the purpose of it. I think if we do not lose the purpose, if you do not lose the core, even AI will be able to help us. But if you do not have the right hold on the core, you have not defined the core, if you do not know which direction your narrative should steer, which can only be known to great marketeers when it comes to marketing narrative, or the great storytellers when it comes to inception of writing stories. Unless that's core, that core is not your anchor, data will not be able to help you. Data would definitely create a world which might be interesting, but might not be true to the core. There is a lot we can talk about storytelling, but today I would like to thank you again, Mint, for making me part of this event. Best wishes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joshi. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your wonderful words. Most importantly, I do believe that just like me, a lot of attendees would have also taken down a lot of notes. And as you beautifully mentioned, the core and the purpose of the narrative should always be there. And I'm sure with the kind of examples you were sharing, a lot of attendees along with me would have gone back the nostalgic times, thinking about the Happy Dent advertisements and many more as well. But thank you so much. In fact, it means a lot coming from the man himself who has driven a lot of amazing narratives as well. So dear attendees, on that note, I do believe it was nothing short of a masterclass, and we'll now move on towards our next session with the same enthusiasm and with the same purpose as well. We now move on towards our next session. In fact, it's nothing but a panel discussion. So yes, from one keynote session, we're moving to a panel discussion again on a very, very pertinent topic. This time, the topic, of course, is around the personalization at the forefront of generating escape velocity. So that is a theme for this session. While I invite our speakers, I'm going to urge all our members of the audience to keep those tweets coming using hashtag MintMarketing2021 and do tag us at @LiveMint. We'd like to quickly invite our speakers on the main screen. I'd like to invite Siddhartha Butalia, Chief Marketing Officer, AirAsia India, Abhinav Tyagi, Senior Vice President, Marketing, Urban Company, Karthik Kumar Martian, President and Chief Marketing Officer, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Ramesh Jude Thomas, President and CEO, Equator Valley Advisory, and this session is being moderated by Siddharth Gopal Krishnan, Partner, McKinsey. So let's have all of our speakers on the main screen. A warm welcome to all of you gentlemen. And with that, I'm going to quickly hand over the proceedings to our session moderator, Siddharth Gopal Krishnan. Over to you.
I must say this is a tough task ahead, given the topic of personalization, which we've been hearing now for a few years, as a super exciting topic, as we're seeing. And we have, a very set of esteemed panelists along with me who and we have 30 minutes, right? So basically, let's see if we can do justice to this very exciting and pertinent topic. To start with, I think just a few thoughts around, what do we at least personalization is a very broad definition, right? It includes everything from personalizing engagement, personalizing experiences, personalizing, but even your own, acquisition, perception of brand and the likes. And there is also a dichotomy as we see it. On one hand, we are, of course, as consumers spoiled for choice, and therefore there is a need to stand out. There is a proliferation of data. There is, there is also a lot of capability enhancements that companies have made. But on the other hand, we're also talking about over communication. We are actually bombarded with messaging across all media and across all channels, and therefore, is this almost over personalization or an attempt that's actually happening? So hopefully over the discussion today, I will look to our panelists to, shed light on, how do we really balance this as marketers? How do each of you actually really, tread the fine line? To start with, what is different about now and personalization, right? I mean, this topic has been, of course, being discussed for a while now, but what is really the reason why this has become such a big and exciting topic right now? And maybe I'll start with Siddharth, from AirAsia. Maybe you can actually start and kick us off on this one.
I mean, it's an interesting question. I think personalization has been harped about for many years as the holy grail, and everybody has this concept of this nebulous customer 360 view that we must all create and harvest data. But I think the last couple of years have really accelerated that, like many other trends. At the same time, I think that rather than fundamentally altering the relationship that organization and brands have had, personalization has always been a cornerstone of the relationship between brands and their customers. From the oldest days of the inns and the shops of the world to the banking relationships that we had, and that got commoditized over a period of time as we introduced technology as an intervener into the interactions that brands had with consumers. And we're just now addressing the gap that had got created to bring back personalization with the likes of AI and the other things, using technology not as a barrier to personalization, but actually as an enabler to personalization. And I think that the last couple of years, all the changes that became apparent in 2020 have just been an acceleration of many nascent trends. And so they're not ephemeral changes; they're things that are here to stay and define the new normal for a time to come. Um, and I mean, lastly, I think in India, that's been driven more also by a more diverse consumer demographic, more socially aware, more connected, younger, and therefore more open to new experiences and service offerings. And that throws up a wealth of opportunities to brands, especially in the service industry, but across industries, which are willing to personalize and create differentiators at an individual level.
Correct. Thanks, Siddharth, for starting that. And maybe on that topic, if I move to RJT or Ramesh, in your industry, which has actually been, doing personalization for a long time before even data or technology existed, because financial advisory, etc., has always been personal. How has that actually changed, right? And what is new about the current wave of things that you're actually seeing in your industry? I think you're on mute, RJT.
Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks for the question. Good to be here with all of you, one familiar face and three new faces. First, a small factual correction. I'm not from the financial services industry, but we'll deal with that later for paucity of time. See, this whole business of personalization actually has gained traction probably in the last 10, 15 years. Because I think mass marketing being an anachronism has held ground for a while. Okay. So then you had analytics and segmentation and targeting, that is all the current range. I think tech has been, for some reason, the great knight in shining armor to help us to target, as it were, to make it more efficient, to make it more comprehensive, to cover large numbers of people. And we know already, we all have the data that the day Amazon said, recommended for you, their revenues went up by 29%. And when Netflix put those new thumbnails in terms of your own choices, theirs goes up by 32%. All that is known. But I think just a thought here, a perspective that I just want to bring in, maybe worth considering. It also shows my age. Today, 2/3 of the world economy by value is actually B2B, not B2C. So all this mass marketing and then that dying down because you want to personalize and digitization has all been under the narrative of B2C marketing. But the reality is, whether we like it or not, whatever data comes at you, give or take, 2/3 of the world's GDP actually is made up of B2B marketing. So and here brands are still playing a role. You buy an IBM or a Hewlett Packard over a Hewlett Packard or vice versa. You buy an Airbus over a Boeing or vice versa. You buy a Caterpillar over a Hitachi and vice versa. So you are also making brand choices, and I don't think that it's any less branded than our B2C markets are. And relationship marketing, that is what we call personalization today, has been around ever since commerce began, in whatever form you want to call it, right? And things like loyalty programs, for example. I mean, Ritz-Carlton's become a case study all over now. Our own jet privilege has shown us how a program like that can be more valuable than the airline itself. Has been around long before the word like machine learning was a glint in the eye of Silicon Valley. Perhaps, therefore, it is time that maybe some of the lessons that we learned from what we then call relationship marketing and how we targeted for a person and a relationship with him, and therefore the choice to use one brand or the other came about. Maybe some lessons are available today in terms of building the narrative as against an over-focus on technology that everyone seems to be talking about, at least what I receive. It's about machine learning, it's about AI, it's about analytics, it's about martech, etc. It's great because it is required as an enabler, simply because the efficiency cannot come unless you have tech. But is that the lead? Is that the arrowhead of what personalization should be about? And I think perhaps maybe it's worthwhile to look at things like B2B to figure out whether some lessons are available from there.
Very interesting spin, Aryan, and apologies for that. If I were to then actually take that and tie it to somebody who's actually been a digital native, right? Abhinav, urban company has actually, is already known. It's what would you think is, what has really changed in the last couple of years as you look at the market? I mean, how are you thinking about this whole topic of personalization? It's a B2C brand, right? And also this whole concept of n equal to 1, right? What are your views of it, and how do you make it happen?
So I think the big change, and as Ramesh said, the enabling role that technology has played. Fragmentation, proliferation of choices was a fact for ages. But I think what it has done in the last few years is that the access to that fragmented choice, the nth choice that comes into the market, the consumer access to that has really become far easier. And that's the role technology has played in enabling it. And the ability of a consumer to switch in and switch out has dramatically gone up. And I think these pieces of access and a wider choice of when to come in, where to come in, how to consume anything, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, whether it's a piece of content, that's the one that over the last couple of years has really accelerated, and why maybe personalization today is not just a good to do, but a critical business enabler. Because otherwise the consumer's always got the option far more easily than she had in the past to switch out.
Got it. And when you talk about Abhinav, this whole thing of timing, it's become actually even more important. People are switching in, switching out. That seems a fairly dynamic, consumer behavior, right? How do you think about that timing? How do you really try to catch that? Is that become even more important now, therefore, to manage that journey?
Yeah, so I think from being very stable, static journeys, which were predictable, kind of had a common flow, etc. Consumer journeys are today far more dynamic. The ability, or rather the importance of stepping in at the right moment and creating a moment of interaction with her is far more important today than it used to be earlier. Earlier, the journey was very simple. You would have a point where she would find out about the services, something that would drive consideration. Then she would come and probably take it at a certain given time and move out. That linear flow no longer exists. It's pretty convoluted, which goes in and out. The ability to predict when is what part of the journey likelier to be occurring, when is it likelier to be more amenable. I think those tools and levers today play far greater role than they used to in the past. For example, I think just festive right now, and we've been talking to a lot of people, and how the entire festive period is, after a very long time of gloom, seeming to be a real breath of fresh air for a lot of businesses right now. But you've also got, therefore, across categories, across a wide gamut of products and services where she is today interacting, the consumer today is interacting. And what is the right time for me as an offering to come in becomes far more critical, rather than getting lost in the clutter that's going on here.
And
if I might add,
sorry, please.
If I might add, it's a very interesting dimension that what Abhinav spoke about, multiplied by two critical risks, which I heard Prashun talking about. One is the goldfish syndrome, right? The 8-second rule. The second is this whole day snacking of content, which we are subject to day in and day out, hour after hour, just adds, a huge exponential dimension to the risk which he was talking about.
And with that, it also brings me to the question, how much of this is reality, right? I mean, it sounds easy that we need to catch customers on time. It's easy to do data, in one place, customer 360. These are all terms which, of course, we've been hearing, and I think there's, of course, genuine movement also happening around that. Maybe Karthi, you've been, as part of your entire financial services system, they're considered to be leaders on this topic, at least in India by far. What has your experiences been on this N equal to 1 and, myth or reality?
Thanks, Dutt, for setting it up. I'm very happy to be the heretic on the panel right now. So I would say that, like Abhinav, we are also able to, if you bought something from us before and we know it on our app, and the next time you come to buy, we're able to personalize the experience by offering you the same relationship manager or the same monsieur or so on and so forth. So I think those basic things are all in place. But if I were to pull back a little and lean on things that Ramesh and Prasun both alluded to, when I'm targeting prospects, non-consumers about whom I have to acquire data from outside, and then we put all these huge boxes and huge pipes and huge pieces of software which cost millions of dollars, attempting to do this, catch them at the right time, N equal to 1, frankly, I think it's a lot of bullshit. Because of 2 or 3 reasons. I remember a Nielsen study, which may be a little dated now, and post-COVID, maybe we need to update it. But at the time, they had reported that advertising effectiveness was more than 47% thanks to creativity, another 22% reach, and targeting accounted for less than 10%. Very likely, post-COVID, that has changed quite significantly. But the part about targeting that I feel that we are overbuying as marketers and advertisers and is probably not working is that because we're able to target with so much data, we overanalyze the hell out of it. Because we're able to report ROI on that piece, but we can't report ROI so easily on television advertising, we tend to lean more on this data-backed thing because it's easier to defend in the boardroom. But the downside of this is that we are very quickly losing the art of wooing and seducing the consumer. The art of getting the consumer to love the brand and consume the brand, not because we put out a great offer, not because I'm giving you 5% more if you click right now, but because you actually buy into and you resonate with the brand and you know that overall that the brand does something with you. And that doesn't have to be N equal to 1. I can, like Jude was referring and Prasun also, the barrage of content we get from all our friends today, whether it's on social platforms or on WhatsApp, none of that is N equal to 1. And yet, by and large, we end up consuming almost all of it, right? It's not targeted to me, but because somebody sent it to me and because I am now this goldfish, I am almost pathologically consuming this. And I am consuming it. So an ad can come to me over WhatsApp and I'll look at it. And the same ad can be playing on IPL. And of course, I'll still look at it. Neither of those were N is to 1. And arguably, they are making an emotional dent in my brain. If they do a good job and if I'm in the consideration set and so on and so forth, things are working. And my worry really is that the magic of all of that, we seem to be losing very quickly just because I'm able to send you bare-boned email saying, buy me and I'll give you a deal today.
So, Karthi, if I'm understanding right, the bar on creativity or the impact that creativity in the marketer's journey can have is still that is what is going to drive the differentiation. I mean, if I just think about what Volvo did with the Super Bowl, I think that stands out versus a mass communication or just because you have channels, because you have tech and you have centralization, there's over communication as you're calling it. And Siddharth, is that something that you also are seeing in your sector now, given it's well on its way to recovery now?
Well, the homogeneity of creativity versus personalization, is that?
That's right.
I mean, in the service industry, I think it's a little different. I spent about a decade at the Taj, and I recall we'd done a case study. I think Harvard Business Review had published in 2011 on what was driving the organization culture, looking at the terrorist attacks and how the organization and the individuals responded to that. And one of the things that came out in that article that they published is that in an average 24-hour stay at a Taj hotel, there are about 42 moments of truth where you have a largely unsupervised interaction between a guest and a member of staff. And each of those is an n is equal to 1 personalization, or can be. I mean, you can be dry and drab and have the standard, how was your flight and welcome and check-in, or you can have a personalized experience. But each of those 42 moments is an opportunity to leave a favorable impression. And it's only if you're able to empower individuals to do that, to motivate them to do that on their own in an unsupervised environment, which has to come from a culture of service. And I think, again, coming back to the fact that in Asia, largely because of our cultural background, we're much more attuned towards delivering that. It comes naturally to us versus many other cultures which are much more individualistic. And so, again, we're primed to be able to do that. We don't need to introduce that culture, we need to nurture and cultivate it. That level of personalization is the nature in which we engage and operate, and that's the nature of humankind. We come from village-like communities which probably have been thrown out of whack over the last couple of years, but that hunger to interact with other individuals and to personalize interactions is always there, as long as we don't stymie it by trying to artificially impose some form of Western capitalism onto a model that says, this is the industrial revolution and therefore everything needs to be process centric. Then you can do a lot better, as long as we create our own models and do that. And it need not, I completely agree, it need not be driven by digital at all. I think that doing that purely through digital actually takes a lot of the interaction away. You can use in digital to empower it, but you can't use digital to deliver it.
And that's brings me to an important point, which is you said digital not everywhere, and anyway, a large part of the growth in India is also coming from semi-urban to rural across most categories, right? Where while digital proliferation is of course very high, or it's increased quite dramatically, and we know that even farmers are actually using, say, YouTube influencers to actually really decide which tractor they buy, and stories around that. How are you all thinking about, as marketers, this entire, where the growth is coming from? How can you actually establish your brands much faster there? Use some of the, at least what data, technology, etc., allows you to do in terms of communications and conversations. How are you actually thinking about both this urban and semi-urban rural split? And maybe Karthi, we can start with you in terms of how have you been thinking about this in your sector?
So I think for us, the consumer has actually led us. We, to start with, thought of ourselves and thought of our opportunity space as a big city player, because we continue to be a very small challenger brand in the banking space. So we thought that the low-hanging fruit is where we should be doing our work. But long before we were able to allow consumers to pluck our account from the sky, just bung it in their app, bung in their Aadhaar and PAN and Bob's your uncle, even before that, when we had built a very clunky version of that on the internet, on a website, we found that consumers from these rural areas that you referred to were opening accounts with us when the closest ATM or branch could have been 250 kilometers away. And why was that happening? Because those consumers had got it long before we did. Just like they were able to order on Flipkart then or Amazon now and so on and so forth, they were perfectly happy to be able to use the local bank's ATM. They understood that they were able to use local bank's ATM and everything else was available on the internet. And therefore, the need to see a physical presence from us, they had taught us that we have to rewire our brains. And I think on the back of that, of course, a big initiative soon after demonetization, when we launched our, so to speak, Sky product 811. And after that, everything that we've done in the space of digitization. But all of that, a hell of a lot of that is, I think, the agenda is to make it easier and convenient for both the consumer and us. Very little of that is in this space. I'm not saying that we don't attempt the personalization stuff even the stuff that I put down. We are making our attempts. My reading so far is that the needle is not moving dramatically enough for us to be singing hosannas to it. That's about it.
Correct. And Abhinav, are you seeing something different from where you stand? I mean, you're also fairly concentrated, but growing fast. So, is that something that you're also thinking about as a different strategy?
So I think 2 points of difference which come for us, and I think it personalization, and Siddharth spoke about it, because at the heart of service is delivered by a service professional directly to you. So there is that 1:1 individual service which comes in, and therefore in that there are many elements that can get tweaked down and come in. And we're finding that the difference between, say, the top 10 metros and the next 10 cities and the next 10 cities, there are elements which allow us to tweak it a little. And those elements do make a lot of difference. Let me take a lot of our salon services and waxing, and our waxing services are a big part of our salon service which comes in. The kind of services that are the frequency, the type of services that get consumed in the top 10 cities change, say maybe 30% when we go into the next 10, and change another 20 to 30% when they go into the next 10. And our ability to ensure that the right assortment, availability, training, interaction, the event experience gets tweaked enough to do that is a critical part that comes in. Still not n is equal to 1, but there is a substantial change that happens there.
And I know that we are also coming close to the end. But a lot of you have been in different stages, both from an industry standpoint, in terms of where personalization is today, whether it's really having impact. So maybe 2 questions for each of you. And do you really think personalization is having the business impact that everyone claims or believes it can have? Real business impact versus a good to do, right? Is it something that you're going to actually really put investment and dollars behind, believing that there is something at the end of the tunnel? I think that's one question. And second is, if you had to start this journey again, right, what would you advise if somebody were to start this journey on personalization, what would you advise them to do? And maybe RJT, we can start with you. You are seeing this from a cross-industry view. So
both questions together?
You can take it one at a time, and then we can come back to the second one on what would your advice be to others.
Yeah, very clearly for me, there is nothing like personalization. Personalization has been around since history, as I said. Just a quick, I have a friend who's a baker who lives down the road. Right? He makes extremely good quality of bakes of all types. He has been, during the COVID, had a problem, and the business has been coming down. All I told him was, instead of sending your WhatsApp blasts, can you take your top 20 customers and write to them individually, perhaps based on the data? He maintains good Excel sheets, based on the data which you have about his likes. It changes his life completely. This is a microcosm, but all I'm saying is, I think everyone will agree that personalization has been around and is going to only help us more and more. The only issue I have is that if tech is the crutch for personalization, and in lieu of what Karthik mentioned, the quality of engagement or the big ideas, then personalization is not going to go anywhere. Okay. If it is in the realm of engagement, high quality storytelling and pure narrative, you will see it only gives you exponential change in terms of value creation. Right. And therefore, just to segue into the second question that you asked, my 2 pies bit for any marketeer is focus more on personalization, not less. Right? But get the story right.
Clear. Abhinav?
So I think very similar, knowing what elements to personalize and where that degree of personalization makes dramatic difference to the user experience and therefore hopefully the user choice as we go along, and where the larger idea, the larger creative makes sense is the big one. And the second piece is, and having been down that rabbit hole a few times, it makes the degree of personalization also makes a big difference. It's very easy to start driving it to almost a level of adapting it to each individual. But you can create a personalized offering which is as detailed as that, but deploying it is a whole different game. So understanding what degree of personalization is deployable and stopping at that point is the advice that I would give, because I've been down the road of creating something which is beautiful, magical, absolutely engineered for you as an individual, and then struggle to figure out how the hell to get it to you. So that's the small piece of
So
advice.
is it fair to say that in your line you've said business impact is there, but there are boundaries to it, and
There's
there are
a
some
line to it.
practicalities that you have to deal with very quickly. Got it.
Yeah.
Siddharth?
I would say to the first, I think it's evident that data and digitization are here to stay. There's no avoiding that. Everyone is giving huge amounts of data, much more than they were. I look at my own industry and say, web check-ins used to be 30%, it's now at 90%. And that web check-in data now contains contact declaration, the PIN code of where you're going to go, etc., etc. Is everyone leveraging that to personalize experiences? Not necessarily. Legislation on how to protect that data will come. But I think what will differentiate firms is the credibility as an organization, as a responsible organization, of what you're going to do with that data. Are you going to use it to make a quick buck, or are you going to use it to drive a value proposition that offers a benefit to the consumer? And that is really, if you're going to personalize and give a premium or a benefit to the consumer, then people will be willing to share that data with you. That will drive trust and loyalty. And a relationship of trust, and you know this from the banking industry, from anywhere else, drives down the transaction costs. All of the intangible consumer resources spent on information, this huge need of intermediaries, as Ramesh was saying, this B2B space, which is really not needed in a digital world anymore. And it puts that value back in the hands of the two individuals who are fundamental to the trade, the consumer and the person who's providing the service, the brand. And so really, if you're able to use digitization and personalization, then you can create a lot more economic value just by removing the inefficiencies in the middle. And on the advice, I think going back to what you were saying, there's one role that I've held for a long while is the Varian rule, which is the Google chief economist Paul Varian, what he said, which is if you want to forecast the future, then you look at what rich people have today. Middle income people will have that 10 years from now. Poor people will have it in an additional decade. The nature in which they have it. So if you have a butler service today, it may not be a butler that everybody will have, but you'll have a Google Assistant or something which is providing the same degree of personalized service. So if you want to predict the future, look at what the few have and see how that can be democratized to a larger population at a cheaper value.
Got it. Kardi?
Yeah, I saw the prompt about us having very little time, so I'll only answer the second question. And this is a piece of advice to all my young fellow marketeers. I'd like to say beware of the shovel makers, because they will always make more money than we ever will finding gold. So be open-minded, but be alert. Don't get conned. Don't buy the shiny new object unless it's working for you.
Super. I think thanks so much, everyone. I think at least I certainly learned a lot. I learned a lot about the importance of the timing, moment of truth. For me, at least one of the big takeaways was while personalization is here to stay, the differentiator on this is still going to creativity and the original the marketer's value add is still going to be very, very important, because that's what still allows the brand to stand out. And of course, everything has to then be tied down to purposeful use of data. I think that's the other big theme that I at least picked from what all of you have said. And there is over abuse of it today, and therefore, purposeful use of it. And finally, really tying it to customer benefits. Really, thanks everyone. And I think we don't have time for questions, but over to you, Kavya, again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Siddharth. And thank you indeed to all our panelists for joining us this evening. I must admit that there was a lot of affirmative nod even on this side of the screen, listening to all of your insights, dynamic voices coming in from all the leaders of different industries. I'm going to take quickly a second to thank you all for joining us at the summit and for sharing your thoughts. Thank you once again. With that, ladies and gentlemen, and all attendees, I know it's turned out such an interesting session, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions there, but we do have a paucity of time, because of which we need to quickly march ahead towards our next panel discussion. So what we're going to do is quickly bring on board our next set of speakers, who will be coming together to share their thoughts on leveraging technology to create marketing highways. If you've been enjoying the sessions, then don't forget to tweet using the hashtag MintMarketing2021, and don't forget to tag us at @LiveMint. With that, let me quickly bring on board our set of speakers for our next panel discussion. We have with us Saurabh Verma, CMO, Geo Studios; Atit Mehta, Marketing Head, Byju's; Deepali Nair, CMO, IBM India and South Asia; Sagar Patil, Director, Customer Growth Advisory, Mo Engage Inc., and our session moderator, someone who's going to be extracting all the insights from the panelists. We have with us Rachna Bahadur, partner, Bain. So with that, let's have all our speakers on the screen here. And it's just wonderful to see such amazing speakers joining in. Hello, everyone. Hi, Deepali. Hi there. Hi, Sagar. Hi, Saurabh. And hi, Rachna. I'm going to quickly hand over the proceedings to Rachna. Over to you then.
Hey, thanks, Kavya, and hello to everybody. I think we are still missing Atit, but hopefully he'll join in the next minute or so. Here. Great. So we're all looking forward to this. It's in my view, a very interesting session and a great follow-on from the previous one, actually. And so let me get right to it. The question is, how do we use technology to create marketing highways? But as I was thinking about it, I thought it was important to reflect as marketeers, and think about what has changed and what hasn't changed thanks to technology. There's some basics around building brand memorability, consideration for a brand, building connect with the brand, and sort of clutter breaking creativity, etc. None of that really has changed in my view. It's how technology is enabling us to do things differently, tackle complicated consumer journeys, which are both yes, complex, but also opportunities for us. So with that, I'd like, I'll sort of, we'll go around and we'll probably start with Atit, and then, go to Saurabh. Atit has a background also at HUL before Baiju, so he can draw some contrasts, as to what that feels like. And then Saurabh, again, has been a filmmaker, is and markets, content, entertainment content right now. So we'd love to start with you, and tell us what, in your view, hasn't changed and what has changed, thanks to technology or because of technology.
Hi everyone. So to start with, let me just talk about what has changed, and that change has been quite significant for everybody. The measurement metrics have changed significantly. One is able to now measure the monies which one is putting behind brand building. It's becoming much more efficient. It is becoming much more targeted, so you are spending well and you are getting the returns. So the big change technology has helped us is on data measurement and tracking and measurability. But all said and done, the consumer understanding what works with consumer, building brand love, building brand equity, putting the right communication, while technology is an enabler, but hardcore consumer insights, understanding the pulse of the market, all those things are still the way it was always being in the past and will continue being so. While data is helping in terms of getting some understanding, but the core of communication, the core of reaching out to your consumers and building your brand and creating that love has not changed. It's the top two things in my view which has changed and not changed.
Saurabh, your take from the world of movies.
So I guess from my perspective, there was this trend of spray and pray. We used to do marketing tactics, which was like spraying all mediums of advertising and marketing, and praying that maybe something works. Maybe there's some audience somewhere, who likes something of ours, and maybe we'll get some results on this. So it was very vague in the earlier time, but today, obviously, like Atit said, that we become more, we are targeting much more minutely. We know the consumer, we can understand their patterns, we can do something like, a lot with that. Apart from that, I think what has changed now is also that, the rabbit hole has just become deeper. So there is a lot of noise. Everybody's talking about the same thing, the same patterns of marketing, but the consumer to some extent is getting annoyed, because when you buy a shoe, you'll get 10,000 advertisements of shoes just floating on your phone. The kind of amount of SMSs that are floating, because there are no particular laws which are controlling. I mean, especially in India. So all that is happening, and the noise is growing day by day. So I think right now at a very nascent stage of where we are trying to understand the digital marketing rabbit hole, and there's a I mean, that noise needs to be lesser, and we need to be a little more caring about the consumer, how we'll be slicing and dicing our data which we procure in the future.
So the invasiveness, yes, I think that is a concern across, but I think that's the also seduction of access in some ways, right? To be able to target and do that. On the other panel, there was a discussion around, there will be legislation at some point. We hope, but yeah, it's an important one to remember. Sagar, from your point of view, um, because we do want to see technology as an enabler, but maybe help us see through this. Which parts of this can we actually automate or make better, do better through this. I think it'll be great for folks to get that overall view.
Got it. So let me throw some light on MarTech, which is a short form for marketing technology. The word itself is just a decade old. And MarTech stands for all the tools and products which a marketing team could use to carry out their marketing operations and basically engage their customers. Back in 2011, there were only 150 such tools available. Guess the number now. It's basically 8,000. So there are 8,000 products, marketing technology products available in the market, which would help marketing teams to better engage their customers or users. However, if you look at it, right, this is quite overwhelming. However, there are few trends which I have tried to find out, and 5 areas which I have tried to highlight, which I will try to highlight here, which would be important to look forward to. One is customer data platform. The word customer data platform, or the CDP, is just 5 years old. There was always CRM data available, but CDP is way more different than CRM, because it just does not store a snapshot of the user or a customer. It gives you a running data of the customer. If a customer is on your website doing something on the app, as soon as he does some action on the app, everything is being captured all at one place, right? So marketers need to invest in CDP, or a customer data platform, to better engage their users. The second thing which I would like to highlight is basically a cross-channel orchestration. You look at channels, right? As the channels have evolved, there are so many channels which have been popped up in last few years, right? From push notifications, in-app pop-ups, you talk about WhatsApp, you talk about social network. You double click on social network, there are like 10 odd social network. You double click on 10 odd social network, there are like hundreds of formats. So there are multiple ways now for a marketer to reach out to their user and engage with them. Now, what becomes critical in this stage with those many channels is how do you orchestrate between these channels? It is not necessary for you to throw the same information across all the channels. You need to build on each of these channels, you need to build on each of these interaction, and the next channel you interact with has to know what has the user done on the earlier channel, right? And that is what a cross-channel interaction, cross-channel orchestration is going to be an important part of marketing technology. It will also help you save cost, because you will be able to first try to engage your user on low or no cost mediums like SMS, email, or push notification. And if you are not able to do so, then you would go on high cost mediums like ad networks or social networks to reach out to your user, right? The third thing which is very important is basically the full stack analytics. with a lot of data coming into picture, right? Now is the time when a marketer has so much of data at their hand that they need tools to analyze the user behavior. They need tools to basically see the trends. And there are tools coming up, right? So there are a lot of data visualization tools coming up into picture, which have popped up, and marketers can use them to basically analyze their user behavior. What we have also seen is that marketers have also evolved in this data analytics field. A lot of marketers have started becoming hands-on. So, and they are not afraid of data. They are not afraid of getting their hands dirty.
If
They
you
are
want,
not
I can
afraid
pick
of
up
cleaning the
Rajvesh.
database,
I
right?
can come
So
pick up
that is the
Rajvesh
reason
and
why a full stack marketing analytics tool is important. And what do I mean by full stack? Is a democratization of the data. The data should be available for anyone who wants to visualize it, anyone who wants to analyze it and make sense out of it. And there are multiple levels of marketers. Some marketers would require dashboards, some marketers would require plug and play dashboard creation,
Manju,
some
I'm on
marketers
a
actually require a raw data which they could query and create
I'm on
their
a panel
own
discussion with
insights out
Vinay.
of
We
it.
had a panel today, so I'm
Now,
doing
the
that.
Might want
fourth
to
one,
tell Atit that
I'll
we
call
can
you
hear
back
him.
15, 20 minutes once it's over.
Hi, Atit, we can hear you.
I'm on a Mint panel discussion.
Ah,
yeah, Rachna, can you mute it if you have
I
the control?
I don't
No.
actually.
No, I've just
Otherwise, I will continue for the paucity of the time. The fourth one is basically the
It's a
attribution,
Zoom.
right?
Yeah, it's a panel is going
So
on, which is
before digital channels took over, there was fairly no attribution at all, right? And people used to compare the before and after. As soon as I did a TV ad, what is an uplift and what is a baseline shift, right? Which is good, but which is not the most accurate. What has happened with the
So we have to fill up that form
digital
because it
marketing and
requires
the
customer
digital
details,
channels
etc.
is you are able to
Karan,
pinpoint
call Karan.
the right
We'll just
channel
tell her.
which has
Remind me,
caused
Karan, he will do
this
it.
particular purchase, right? That is
Yeah.
how the attribution is used today. However, there is a lot of data in place, right? Even in attribution, lot of companies, not lot of companies, in fact, 99% of the companies still use last touch attribution. Basically, a user goes through so many channels, right? He goes through Facebook, he goes through push notification, he clicks an email, and then finally he might click an SMS and purchase. What do we do? That purchase happened because of SMS. Now that's the last click attribution. Now we need to move from this last click attribution to a multi-touch attribution. We need to find out ways to basically assign the part of the order to the touch point, to multiple touch points, and there should be models which would evolve around this. That's basically what a marketing technology is going to help you with. And fifth one, which is the final point, is basically all of this is going to be disrupted by AI. Now, AI does not do anything special. So if you look at it, right? So marketing works on basically four questions: who, what, when, where. Who do you target? AI is going to tell you. If you give a AI offer or a product to to promote, they will tell you who is the right audience for them. The AI can tell you
Saga, I
that.
do want to steer back a little bit for a second, and sorry to interrupt, but we'll come back to that. I think.
Sure.
I think what you're making, what you're helping us see is how a marketeer can use technology. But I also want us to go back to saying what it means to the consumer, because in the end, as a consumer, I as a consumer, I actually don't care what the brand did with its data to get to me and to show me what I want to see and pitch me what I need to buy. So I want to come back to consumer, and then we
So
can
Rachna,
come.
can I,
Yes,
if I may want to interrupt you and demystify, the technology talk that
yeah,
Sagar just did. I think consumer at the heart of it is seeking simplicity. And can brands and technology make his or her life simpler? I mean, the Maslow's hierarchy still applies, to the consumer, and you can decode, consumer with that. Now, the point that you're really making, Sagar, is this, that the modern world has changed, whether it's a B2C brand or a B2B brand, the change that has happened for us marketer is that it's about, seeking the real estate on the phone of a customer. That's really the change that has happened for the marketer. And there are two contexts that apply over there. One is that I may be a very large ecosystem brand, and therefore I'm seeking that space on the real estate. Okay. Or second, I could be a smaller brand who then has to decide which ecosystem I'm going to be a part of. Right. And that is the paradigm that has changed completely for brands, alliances, the partnerships and the associations that they run. I think there may be marketers who still think that we have to have this creative ad on television or this creative, role on YouTube and, things like those. But I really think that organizations, and that's what we see at IBM, organizations which are rethinking their business models and are rethinking, this domain, that the real estate on the phone, or whichever way, the apps, etc., that you look at it. And second is the platform economy that is coming in. I mean, one of our clients, SBI Yono, for example, the app, which is, if you just come to think of it, is one of the largest in the world, I think, in terms of downloads. The success of what they managed to do is on account of the fact they created an ecosystem of brands. And the third thing, when we're seeking simplicity, is that we must look at the age cohort also of the customer. For example, the younger cohort of customer today is very okay with changing UX, changing habits, and as we call it. But the older cohorts that you have, take me for example, right? If I'm very, very familiar with, let's say, Swiggy, then I'm not as comfortable with the Zomato UX, and I don't want to change. And I think that's something that we must also keep in mind. So when Sagar is talking about all the MarTech, he spoke about the 8,000, 8,000 different kinds of MarTech stacks, MarTech platforms being available. There's also a Gartner study which complements it, that today CMOs are spending more than 1/3 of their spends actually on buying MarTech. But the reality there again is that if I'm one, ahead of the everybody brand, and I take the MarTech stack, but my ecosystem does not have it, my agencies don't have it, the people who provide data to me do not have it, my partners don't have it, and we don't have that data sharing, policies, the MarTech stack will not deliver the ROI that it's supposed to deliver. So I think, in short, what Sagar was saying, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, but Dipali, since we are with you, and thanks for that, absolutely agree. But since we are with you, and so there's an interesting stat here, which is, while all marketing, whenever we talk about it, we focus on B2C. The fact is, 2/3 of global economic revenue comes from B2B,
That's right.
and marketing is equally important. In fact, and I heard this on another panel, but it stuck with me, which is personalization actually began with one-to-one B2B
That's
marketing,
right.
right? In some senses, if you want to think about it
Yes.
that way,
Yeah.
right? So now you've also had the B2C background at Marico, and so at IBM, and if you think about how CMOs at enterprise tech companies should be evolving, how they think about getting that share of attention. You call it share of phone, I'm going to call it share of attention,
Yeah.
of their customers. How are you seeing it evolve, and how are you thinking about it at IBM?
So I think about it in two different paradigms. Okay, let me just give you the first paradigm. First is what I say, that there is the art and science to marketing in the B2B context. Okay. The art is what has been traditionally known to everybody, which is, McKinsey Quarterly is the best marketing tool for a B2B organization, right? Similarly, at IBM also, we have something called the IBV studies, and they're really revered, in the industry. The art is, getting the subject matter experts together. The art part of it is what is well known is that IBM every year does a Think event, which is, live streamed on Watson Media, and people flock to listen to our research, and we have patents and things like those, right? That is what the art part of the marketing in B2B space is. But what is new is what I call the science of marketing in B2B domain. And that is that Deepali Nair as a CMO carries the sales targets. She carries the pipeline targets. She's discussing top of the funnel matrix, and she's discussing bottom of the funnel matrix that Sagar was talking about, in a manner of speaking, that the whole MarTech stack. I mean, B2B companies and enterprise tech, especially so, were one of the first adopters of the MarTech stacks across the world. So that is hardcore, right? And now that is what has dramatically changed in the last few years, thanks to the advent of MarTech technology. But I want to say one more thing, and that's the second paradigm shift. Rachna, I challenge you that I don't think it's about the B2C and B2B divide any longer. Okay, it is about services industry and the non-services industry, if I may call it, right? So I have worked in Marico, like you mentioned, and the FMCG brands do not have a transactional relationship any longer with their customers. But if you look, whether it's enterprise tech, whether it is a bank, whether it's a credit card, whether it's a holiday company, which I also worked for, we all have transactional relationship with the customer. Byju's has a transactional relationship with the customer too, right? Now that, and mining that data and building on that relationship, and which was the last point Saga was trying to make, which is that AI to use that data and to get insights, that whole gamut of marketing has changed. And therefore, when I'm doing the segmenting these days, and when I'm talking, I encourage people to think services marketing and think non-services marketing. And that's where the B2B and the B2C context does not remain, according to me, because the whole performance marketing domain is very same, not so simple, for the person who's coming in from outside, let's say from the FMCG domain, not so simple for them, but very simple. Now there are new, and this is the last point that I want to make, there are new things, therefore new disciplines that are emerging. The whole loyalty discipline that emerges, right? The retention discipline that emerges, right? The NPS discipline as part of marketing, the way it emerges. All these things, and all the relationship building part, the post sale, the customer lifetime value aspect, that only comes in the service industry, Rachna. So back to you.
Yeah,
Yeah, just to add
what
what Dipali was.
Sorry, my voice is
Yeah, we can't hear you very well.
Do you have two speakers by any chance? Usually that's the cut.
No.
Maybe there are two softwares open. Maybe you've opened it twice.
No, it was now it's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to add to what Dipali is saying, so see, when one is talking about a transactional relationship with the customer, the biggest advantage is while you have done advertising to get the customer, and once the customer has now become your paid customer, there are enough and more opportunities a brand would be having in terms of upselling a lot of things to him or her. And then you move on to the other part that will determine what your NPS is, that will determine what your retention numbers are going to look like. And if you do it better, and what Sagar was talking about, then you just add a layer of the entire technology stack with all the information which is available, with all the front facing data analytical tool. Now, for example, if you look at Tableau as a platform, it's a phenomenal tool, but one needs to feed in the data, and the data then looks beautiful for one to comprehend. Now, that comprehension of data needs to be done with a purpose of ensuring your consumers are getting everything they want, whether it is pre-sale, it is during the sale, and post-sale. So that's where your CRM comes in. And if you're doing that well, with the help of right amount of understanding of data and not over engineering data, your NPS numbers will go up, and that's when the magic happens. Higher NPS, higher app store ratings, higher word of mouth would then lead to an exponential growth of your business, both in terms of driving better throughput, so your ARPU starts going up, as well as there is an opportunity to upsell the same set of consumers at practically zero cost.
Can't debate that. Saurabh, do you have a point of view from a entertainment content perspective? I think it sounds very similar, but anything that we are missing here in terms of nuance?
I guess I agree with the experienced people. I think Dipali talked about discipline. In my mind, in the entertainment industry and the world I'm living in, I think that discipline is extremely important. The fact that, when you approach somebody, and especially, stars or talent or something, for them, marketing is like even a 10-year-old can do it, or everybody has ideas. But how do you, streamline them? What are the basic things? And we sometimes get stuck in softwares or end execution, but the whole final execution needs a certain kind of disciplines, and those are extremely important tools which we as students are learning. I mean, I feel that the world and the consumer habits are changing so fast that by the time you learn something else comes in, and new things start coming in. So it's an exciting world, and I hope we are able to find our voice in the noise in the long run.
And what have you seen work? I think we can go around actually the group, but maybe start with you. I like that thread on discipline. So, what in your words would be advice on that front?
Can I add on? Can I substantiate what Saurabh said, if you don't mind?
Sure, then we can, yeah.
You know, at IBM, we do a C-suite study, and the latest report is 3,000 CEOs across the world that we've interviewed. Okay, and we've correlated the CEOs who are leading companies which are ahead of their competitors in terms of revenue, top line, bottom line, etc. Right, and one of the differences that you see between the laggards and the ones that are ahead is how they utilize data across the organization, the data policies that they have, how empowered are the employees, in usage of data, and how they are aggressive with governance in terms of sharing data with their partner and the ecosystem aspect that I spoke about. Just to add to what Saurabh was saying. Sorry, Rachna, please carry on. Yeah.
So, back to you.
You need to ask me the question again so I can answer.
So I was just saying that everybody seems to agree
Advice.
with the discipline thread, but so in your view, if you had to give advice to marketers today in terms of usage of data for everything that we've been discussing, what would it be?
So basically, there are two parts of data. One is accumulation and one is slicing and dicing. I think where we are standing weak is the slicing and dicing. It's very easy to accumulate data nowadays, and people at this moment are not shying away from giving their numbers, email IDs, or you end up doing everything because everything is online, whether it's web check-in or you're buying a ticket in the cinema hall, or you're doing booking it through Book My Show. But what do we do with that data? How do we not annoy the consumer? So basic thought is, we'll send an email and the person. But if you see the opening rates and if you see the kind of emails I get from where I book things, I mean, you get at least 6 to 7 emails every week. So after a while, it becomes a blind spot. So I think it's very important for us to understand that the ammunition is in abundance, but we can't keep on firing at the same consumer. So when do we fire? What do we do? What are the tools? One is that. The second is the way we are approaching creatively also matters. Even in filmmaking, if you see, there was a time when films were shot abroad and used to go to these lavish locations, but now Indian films have come back to grassrooted India. We are shooting films in Agra, Mathura, UP, Indore, because the world is interested, world as well as we as Indians are interested in grassrooted content. So even advertising has become like that. It's a simple father son tale or a mother talking about a product or things like that. So the approach has become simpler, but the dissemination needs to be a little more simpler for the consumer, so that again, it's finding your voice in the noise again.
Right. And Sagar, to you, the pointed question really is if again, there is a lot of data, there are a bunch of tools that folks have access to, but actually the value is in recognizing the metric to chase that's going to give you enough information and direction to do something with. Right. And so on that, do you have advice for folks who are listening in?
Yeah, so how I visualize how a role of a marketer is going to change with a lot of this data and AI coming in is, right. I say that, and I say it, to everyone, is that marketers are going to be teachers. See, the AI is a child. You need to feed in the right data, it will run in a right manner. If you feed in a wrong data, if you feed in your biases into the system, the AI will learn in the wrong manner. So what I say is that marketers need to learn how to be a good teacher in terms of data teacher, give a right amount of data, right kind of data to the AI, and that requires enough amount of learning for the marketer itself as well, so that you can make use of this AI in marketing.
Great point. Thank you for that. I know we're coming up close to time, but we have Saurabh, and there's a question that I did want to pose to him and start there. Right, online video content is seeing, is just unprecedented proliferation. You touched upon locations or settings, but also language, format, long versus short, platforms. There's just too many. I think there's not enough space on my phone or my TV app for the apps that are available out there. So it's a very exciting time. So the question I have, and I will start with you, but I also want the others to comment, is to you, what has been the most surprising and least surprising content trend in the very recent past? And as consumers of content, what do we have to look forward to that you're seeing shape up in the next few years?
So I think the one of the most surprising thing is that when something works, it's a basic trend in every industry that everybody tries to do the same thing, the same pattern of creative approach and everything. But if something works today, it doesn't work 6 weeks from now, or a few months from now. So that is something which is very very surprising, because the same set of consumer, the same lifestyle, same things are interesting, but the consumer habits are changing. So that's something which is very very interesting. The second is that there was a world of sham Benegal, and people when used to be very very basic, and that's coming back again. Ek Titli and Ek Titli, and that those kind of campaigns are now again, the simplistic. At that time used to be simplistic because we didn't have the tools or technology, but today you don't need to go 3D in an animation. You don't need to go high tech in an animation. A simple story or a simple marketing idea, well told, just does the job. And I feel there are 100 ideas in marketing, and they may not be 101st, but those 100 ideas, how easily and how simplistically you are able to do it, I think that makes a difference. And that comes from the leader themselves as well. Complicated leaders, arrogant leaders, boastful leaders are no longer the trend. So you don't need to wear three-piece suits to become a leader. You don't need to do that. So that approach has to come down, and the consumer reads that.
Got it. So simplicity overall,
Yes.
right? And the speed at which consumer habits and trends are changing over time. Okay. Dipali, do you want to go next?
Oh, yeah. First, Saurabh, this is directly to you. I'm the least surprised with the success of the OTT platforms, and the fact that the greatest content is happening, over there. I think we should not be surprised. I think it's just, it's a different whole world together. Most surprising for me that despite all this brilliant video content is the success of the voice tech. So the Clubhouse success took me by surprise. I launched a podcast last year in July. It's really done very well. That surprised me, believe me. I thought it was going to be very niche, but it's the second popular show on the platform that it's run. But I also want to say this, and this is sorry, Atit, I have to say this. As a mother of a 17-year-old child, I think the most disappointing trend for me is in the space of education content. It's just not engaging enough. I think that's the most disappointing piece for me. Okay, Rachna, that's all I want.
That's fine. Ajit, do you want to respond?
Atit is on mute, I think.
Ajit, you're on mute.
Atit, you're on mute.
Again, I went on mute. Okay, no, I was saying that I will respond to Dipali separately in terms of how we are trying to make her more engaged and make her more interested in the category. But yeah, but one thing which is really surprising me outside the content piece is what Sagar spoke about. He briefly touched upon it. See, as current new generation marketeers, with all this technology and data, this entire ocean of new things which are hitting us, people have just become so dependent on data that you're losing the human touch. And there are some set of marketeers who do not believe in data, and they believe in their own gut feel, intuitive understanding. So somewhere I'm seeing two different extremes. My point only is data is a great thing. Yeah, one should look at it. It really really drives a lot of efficiency, effectiveness, and technology is going to play a very very critical part as we go forward in the next 5 to 10 years. But don't lose out your experience, don't lose out the intuitive feel you have, the combination and the right balance, which depends upon category, upon the person, upon the business, and the competitive space and the cohorts you're targeting. But the balance is the right thing which one needs to do. Most of the times data engineering or over engineering of technology and thing is taking away the human touch, and that really surprises me.
I think we're also on time, and that's a great note to end at, actually, because the thing to remember is, I like this thought of balancing intuition and data and focusing on insight. And that insight can either come from true real human experience. Sometimes great insight can be thrown at you, if you mine the data right. But knowing that it's about the insight and not about the data, or not just about gut feel anecdotal stuff, is I guess has always been the true I guess test of a good marketeer. And so that's wonderful. And I just want to this is not I'm just going to touch upon a few things that I think we should all take away. One, technology is great. Knowing how to use it to our advantage is what marketers need to focus on. Don't get just enamored by it. Buying a data stack, or like having data is not enough. Using it is what we need to learn. Second, I love the thought around simplicity, because that again takes us back to consumer inciting and storytelling. It means a good story, well told, still is king when it comes to marketing, because there's again old data, but it couldn't have changed. Half of the effectiveness of any marketing campaign comes from the actual content and the storytelling. The rest is how you end up executing it, and all of that stuff. So I think that stood out to me. And then again, last thing, because this was about technology, there is a lot that we can do. It can enable a bunch of upselling, cross selling, tracking consumer journeys, which actually are getting complicated. The number of entry points to your service or product are increasing manifold. And so keeping track of that is really what will make you succeed in that world. Thank you so much. I think this was great fun. Hopefully folks enjoyed it too. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachna. And thank you indeed to all of our fabulous panelists. I know 30 minutes is just not enough to gather your insights, but I'd like to thank you all for joining us at the summit and sharing some amazing thoughts. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to call it a wrap to another pertinent discussion that we were all witnessing. And let's now jump to our next session very quickly. In fact, we have a fireside chat in store for all of you on a very feisty topic as well coming up for all of you. This is a very important topic featuring two amazing speakers as well, wherein focus on marketing the revenue engine. In fact, this chat will be spearheaded by Shalal Gupta, Chief Business Officer, Mosaic Digital, who will be in conversation with Deepika Warrior, Chief Marketing Officer, Diageo India. So let's quickly deep dive into the fireside chat. Let's find out more about marketing the revenue engine, and let's get both of our speakers on board. Meanwhile, don't stop tweeting. Keep those tweets coming using hashtag MintMarketing2021. Warm welcome to you, Shalal.
Hey, hi, Kavya. How are you?
All good indeed. Over to you.
Hi, Kavya.
Thank you, Kavya.
Hey, Deepika. Hi there.
Hi, Deepika. How are you?
I'm good, sir. I think you and I stand between our audience and a drink, so we should do this quickly.
Quickly. Even same here. And, as something was telling me, I don't know why we call it a fireside chat. Either we call it an iceberg chat or a Himalaya chat. That would be better for India, actually.
That's true.
But good. Thanks a lot, Deepika, for joining. In fact, it's an honor and pleasure to have you on the platform. And our
Likewise.
topic is very interesting, and we have to really make it interesting. One, I think, marketing is a revenue engine. I think we have been hearing whenever I'm talking to CMOs across technology, across retail, across FMCG, CPG goods, I think most of the people have started talking about that revenue engine is the way forward. And I think more importantly, the CMOs today are sitting on the hot seat. So one of the statistics which I really was able to capture, 80% of the time, before even the sales guy is able to knock the door of the customer, decision is already taken. If that is the case, then the person who's actually reaching out before even the sales guy is reaching out is the marketing and the CMOs, in fact. So that is the staggering statistics which I heard about, and I think people are now more inclined towards how it is being adding revenue, right? I'll straight away shoot, Deepika, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Marketing is no more an awareness and advertising, right? And our theme is escape velocity. I think we need to take marketing to a level where we are actually escaping the velocity which we have got. And the pandemic has shown the way how digital and the content being the god now, the outcomes has to be validated. So I think, do you agree or disagree that revenue engine, outcome based, result orientation, I think that's where the needle is moving largely now?
Yeah. So, Shalil, great to talk to you, and hope to catch up with you outside formal panel discussions as well. And a big thank
Yes.
you for Mint to have me on this panel with you. So, to come to your point, I was in actually in a global marketing leadership meeting a couple of weeks ago, and our global CEO, we'd spent 3 weeks, and I was unfortunately joining virtually. Everyone else was in Edinburgh in a beautiful setting, and I was salivating and was hoping I could go there. But the newly opened, Johnny Walker Princess Street brand home, so I was like really, really, it was tough being here on Zoom. But he came and addressed us towards the end of the session, and he said a couple of things, and we'd spent 3 days talking about storytelling, building brands with purpose. How do we create a community of future back marketeers and so on and so forth. And he said a couple of things which really stayed in my mind, and I wanted to share with our audience today. So he said, and he'd just come from a commodities review and profitability review and so on and so forth. And he said, you folks are so important because 90% of the value that's created for me in my and forget everything else is created by understanding the consumer better and using that understanding to address either risks or opportunities better than anyone else. So that's the one thing that he said. And the second thing that he said is you folks, and we were the global marketing leadership, need to be the architects of really exciting margin enhancing growth. And it's not the first time I've heard it, Shalin. I've got 25 plus years as a marketer, as a profit center head, as a category head. But, I have always firmly believed that a CMO needs to be, what I call a chief growth officer, because, it's okay to do great consumer connect. And I'm not even talking about sexy campaigns. And, I'm saying, you could be terrifically connected to the consumer, grow brand love. But if you're not able to anticipate the consumer's needs and convert or drive brand consideration and convert that into revenue, then you beyond a point you'll become kind of meaningless for the larger organization. And the third thing that I wanted to say was I think it's a good time for marketers today. So I think there was a period, I would say, in the 2010s where marketing went through its middle-age crisis. There was this whole technology shift that was happening. We were, the proliferation of consumer outreach channels, consumers becoming almost professional consumers and demanding what exactly they wanted, the growth of insurgent brands. And I must say, marketers were almost, wondering as to what their role in an organization was. But I think today, I would say we're back to the golden age of marketing, because I think coming out of COVID, and the kind of the mega trends and the shifts that we've seen in consumers, which have actually just accelerated a lot of the trends that we were seeing even before COVID. The fact that consumers today want to live in a physical and digital world, the fact that in India, and let's talk about India because we're living in India, but consumers are seeking more and more experiences, and consumers have been locked in at home for 18 months, and they're really going out and wanting to experiment and experience new things. And we know India is the home of aspiring consumers. So we're sitting on a pot of gold. And I think, I really think it's a golden age of marketing for Indian marketers to unlock that pot of gold, as consumers come out of this terrible period of, I would say, uncertainty and, just restricted choice and being shut in over the last 18 months. So a long answer to your question, but absolutely agree with you that, marketing needs to be a big revenue engine and a growth engine for the organization.
Absolutely. And Deepika, you set the context so nicely that, it sets us for the next stage of discussion.
Sure.
Two things I have seen which is happening. One is convergence of brand and performance coming together. I think no more two sides of the coin, that I am running a brand campaign differently and I'm running a, let's say, performance campaign differently. That is converging together. Second side of the coin, which has changed largely because of the pandemic, is the digital side. I think you would agree that in last 18 months, the playbook of consumers and specifically products which from your company perspective has changed a lot, right? Now, I know because of the regulations, you can't go directly with the content and so and so, but you would need to do a sort of a proxy marketing, and that to digital, and build a brand which could create a demand. I think It's a long ask. It's a very, very long ask. And hats off to you. Let me tell you, Divya, you've been doing a great job there. Share some stories, how it happened, how the behavior of the consumers are changing, how you leveraged it. The market of one, which I call it, is very important.
Awesome. Yeah. No, so, and when I was putting my thoughts together to come and talk to you, and I sat in on the previous panel discussion as well, and I love some of the big thoughts that came out there, whether it is, simplicity, not over confusing the consumer, respecting their privacy. I think all of those are very important factors. And this combination of analytics and intuition, which is very important. So a couple of things I want to say. One is I just a bit of marketing 101. I think my 25 plus years, I must pardon me if I sound a bit professorial, but I think that the one thing that you realize, Shalil, as you would have realized as well, the more things change, the more they remain the same. So if you ask me, I think, I'm now increasingly confident, also coming out, as I said, of that era of confusion, that, let's pull back. I think, and as a chief marketing officer and as a chief growth officer for a company, and whether it's in Alcobevs where we've got a broken path to purchase, as you said, so it's not as simple as it is for other businesses. But I think the basics don't change. So for the marketing function, the important thing, and again, and I know you've asked me for specific examples. I'll come to it, but. Sure. I think the important thing for marketers to remember is, we are the drivers of the long term for the company. And, earlier, to your point in terms of performance and equity, earlier there used to be this whole thing saying, marketing drives long-term equity, but, short-term performance is a joint-up thing. I don't agree with that. So I think, marketing's role increasingly is to also drive long-term growth, to identify the long-term growth opportunities. And then, of course, also identify what could be the short-term calibration or iterations that need to be done, for which you need to work cross-functionally, whether it's with your commercial sales functions, operations and so on and so forth, to deliver it. So, for our audience, and, Shalil, you can add to it from your own experience. I think the basics should be remembered, So it's very important, whether you're in Alcobevs or you're in another CPG company, or you're in any industry. We were talking about Byju's and so on and so forth in the previous panel. But, I think the important thing that a marketer needs to do is to set a longer term growth plan, for their business or their brands, their portfolio brands. So this could be, earlier it used to be 5 years and it became 3 years pre-COVID, where, the uncertainties, and now we've gone back. I don't know whether it's happening to you, but it's happening back to us to say that, okay, now we're coming out of COVID. Maybe we need to again take a longer term view, think about what the consumer of 2030 will look like. And let's work backwards from that in terms of, how the consumer is going to behave, and therefore what are the growth opportunities going to be like. So I think identifying those long-term growth opportunities is clearly something that the marketer needs to do. Layer that with, I would say, a strong segmentation, and the segmentation needs to come from either the segments that you're operating in. It could be category, it could be, it could be determined by price or the consumer segments. But most importantly, almost use a consumer occasion and a motivation lens to maybe segment your category or where to play differently. Because, and this is jargon, but, the whole point about, consumers hire brands to do jobs. So I'll give you an example from my previous company, from PepsiCo, and it's not proprietary, and I don't know whether we use it anymore, so I can use it. But we used to earlier duke it out, right? PepsiCo and Coke fighting in the beverage segment, and it was, the colas fighting the colas, the clear drinks fighting the clear drinks. And then we pulled back and we said, let's really look at it from a consumer framework. And we arrived at a demand space kind of framework, demand occasion space framework, where we said the consumer is looking for drinks, early in the morning, which nourish him or her. Then are looking for drinks maybe at about, 4 in the evening when you're feeling a little tired, which are performance enhancing. It could be a cup of tea. It could be a Mountain Dew, which gives you an energy spurt. There's some moments, where you want a small reset before you go back and, kind of get on with the day. There are moments when you're looking for connections, when you're connecting with your friends and you want something to share, just to get the conversation going. So suddenly it changed the where to play for our set of brands or our portfolio. And, the how to wins also became very different in terms of, who was a competitive set, who were we competing with? We were competing with tea in some case, not just it's a carbonated soft drink. I can give you similar examples from my own current category. So I think, but, the important thing is setting that longer term growth map, identifying a good segmentation tool in terms of defining where to play, what's your right to win and how to win. And then, of course, having a near-in plan to kind of operationalize that, which obviously takes the context in mind. But coming back to your specific question and some examples, I think, again, to talk about, how marketing drove short-term growth. So I think COVID is a great example, right? So COVID suddenly threw all the playbooks out of the window. So there was, we were not doing any tracking anymore because you know what, all the research agencies were not able to put their field teams out. So we switched completely to a more digital, more agile way of speaking to consumers, virtual groups, virtual one-on-ones. And we were really depending more on our own observations of ourselves as consumers, our friends, our community, and what little market visits we could do to understand what was happening. So we kind of disbanded all other tracks, and we just had something that we called a COVID tracker, where we were going out and listening to consumers. We listened to consumers over about 4 times in those 18 months, just to understand how consumer behaviors were shifting. So in our category, for example, we saw a huge change. People like you who were traveling earlier, and was shopping in duty free and bringing back your favorite bottle of Johnny Walker or single malt, suddenly could not travel anymore. So the insight that we took was, we said, let's take some premium on trade, of retail outlets, and how do we recreate the duty free experience there, and therefore capture that share of growth that we would have got from you while you were traveling, but in retail in India. Second example, consumers were suddenly, earlier, drinking was still pretty taboo, but we suddenly saw permission to drink grow. I mean, you would have seen it. Suddenly it became far more central to family get-togethers, smaller, more casual, intimate get-togethers, and so on and so forth. And it actually became, part of more from this very statusful thing in terms of what I would serve in a party to a part of my day-to-day, journey. And then consumers were looking for more DIY, how could I do stuff myself? And therefore we needed to shift a lot of our content and what you called, influencer-led activation, or some of the extension work to target consumers and how to educate them. So for example, what we would do is we've got brand ambassadors who are fabulous mixologists and deliver great cocktails. So we would do content sessions with them, kind of, reaching out to consumers to show them how to make a great cocktail. So we were kind of, suddenly a share of occasion moved in home, from on premise. So the larger point I'm making is, I think marketers need to be very, very thoughtful in terms of both long-term, how to drive long-term growth strategy for their companies, but also in terms of the short-term, therefore calibrating depending on the context. Now, COVID is over. Now we're focusing on, what's new. So obviously, there's all the revenge socializing, the revenge traveling, and so on. The occasions are changing again. So how do we now tap into these new sources of growth, and so on and so forth? So I know I've said a lot, but I hope I kind of answered your question.
All valid points, Deepika. In fact, I'm so glad when you said we are not chief marketing officer, we are also chief growth officer. And I think this is very important to understand. I'll tell you why. Because what had happened, the journey has been always the same. One, you have journey as expectations of customers or consumers. So I call it first E. The second E is experience. And frankly speaking, a lot of people have said to me, Salil, we create great experience. And I always said it's a myth. Consumers create experience. You don't create any experience. You may enable experience. And the third E is very important, is engagement. And I think what has happened is a lot of people have been, referring to a scorecard called NPS, Net Promoter Score. And so I say it's hygiene. NPS, everybody is measuring. Today, we need to measure attractiveness and relationship as well. And I think that's where it is coming, right? Because if you look at the segmentation, if you look at the millennials coming in, their way of approaching is very different. I mean, their loyalty is questionable, let's say this way, right? I mean, their relationship is questionable in that sense. How do we build that is a framework which is completely new. And I think the 3E I've talked about, and the fourth E is enlightenment. So if I see expectations, experience, engagement, and the fourth E is the base, which is enlightenment. And I say, until you are enlightened today, all the 3 E's will be wasted. You should know what my preferences are. You should know what job I'm getting it done, and why I am hiring any customers, any company services. I think that's where, I've been given a time mark, Deepika, that time is over for us, etc., etc. But, let me say fireside and a firing round, let's say this way.
Sure.
Okay. If you want to leave 5 messages for the audience, hey guys, do this, do this, do this, do this. This is your litmus test. If you're doing all this, then you're in the right direction. What are those messages you would leave?
So thanks a lot. And I loved your 5 E's. I think that's definitely a message that I'm going to take home. And I'm making mental notes. And as soon as this call is over, I'll write it down in my laptop as well. But, I would just reiterate what I said. So I think, marketers have to be the growth architects of their company. You have to start with the long term, and you need to have a long-term growth map, which basically comes down to, driving the portfolio right, long-term profitable growth in terms of the right portfolio of choice,
Yeah.
as well as I said, the right consumer segmentation, and following what jobs are we being hired to to kind of serve.
So
Yeah. And the second one is, I think, this is an interesting tool, and so the couple of things that we do at Diageo, we ultimately, and maybe I'm taking a very CPG lens, and maybe it's not as relevant as to some of the other industries below, but I think it works across sectors. I want to simplify it. So if you were to break down growth, at least what we believe, and we follow a very simple model where we say there are only two things that you need to do. A, you need to drive mental availability of your brands, which is just ensure that your brands are in the choice set of consumers, with the right propositions, with the right benefit statements, and the other is the right attributes, and the other is drive physical availability. So at all points of consumption and choice, your brand should stand out and be considered. So I think it's very important to just simplify it in your mind. Long-term long-term growth strategy basis portfolio and segmentation. Short-term strategy basis what are your priorities for the in-year. How do you drive growth basis mental availability and physical availability? And the last, of course, is how do you keep reinventing your brands and ensure that they're relevant. So the post-COVID consumers' needs will largely be the same, because we are human beings and we tend to forget. But I think there will be some evolution. So it's always important to also kind of review your brand's assets and your inventory to ensure that you're being relevant to the evolving consumers' needs. If you do these, I would say that you can ensure that you're the growth architect.
Fantastic, Deepika. I think nobody would have better summarized than you you have done it. And I always say, I give you an example of a hospital. I saw Apollo Hospital putting an ad and saying that we are COVID warriors, and it's a very important message. Like at that point of time, even you people, when you came out with sanitization, I mean, you shifted your product manufacturing to help the society.
True.
Right? I have seen the consciousness of marketeers have grown tremendously, around environment, around social impact, governance, being ethical side of the story, which was kind of earlier not there as a focus. I think I would take as one of the biggest advantage of today's CMOs, today's marketeers. I think that's where the true value lies.
I mean, if I can build on your point, and I'm so sorry I didn't mention it, but you made such a powerful point. So I think driving growth is important, but it's important to drive responsible growth in a way that you're giving back to the community, giving back to the environment, and not kind of taking away from it. So I think it's a really powerful point that you made, and I'm so glad that that's the last thing that we say. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deepika. Thanks a lot for the time. I have been given 10 times advice. Go ahead. So, but it's being honor, it's being pleasure. I will be in touch with you offline as well. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It was great talking to you. Thanks a lot.
Same here. Thank you. Back to you, Kavya.
Thank you, Shalil, and thank you, Deepika. I must say cheers to this very potent conversation that we were really looking forward to. So thank you once again. And on that wonderful note, let's quickly march ahead towards our next session, because we've got a next set of speakers and a very interesting topic lined up for all of you. It's time for our next panel discussion as we focus on privacy and personalization, most importantly, getting an industry view. We're going to bring on board our speakers, Sandeep Bhushan, Director and Head of GMS, Facebook India, Vineet R. Ahuja, Managing Director and Accenture's Consumer Sales and Service Lead in India, Anubhav Sontalia, CEO, Merkle Sokrati, and the one who will be leading the session, moderating the session, we have with us Ashwin Moduga, Head Research, Mosaic Digital. So let's bring on board all of our speakers. Well, hello everyone, and let me quickly hand over the session to Ashwin. Over to you there.
Thank you so much, Kavya. I think the previous session panelist was mentioning that we were the ones standing between the drink and the panels. So let's try to wrap this up fast enough. I think, Vineet, I would like to start the session with you.
Sure.
I wanted to start off begin talking about the sort of data privacy changes that have been happening around us. The first thing that I want to mention is the recent iOS 14 changes, right, and the cookieless futures that we've been speaking about. Wanted to get your opinion on what is these changes and where are we heading towards?
Sure. Ashwin, can you hear me loud and clear? I hope you can see and hear. All right.
Crystal clear.
Yeah. Thanks, Ashwin, for that question. So very broadly, I mean, we see two sets of changes or two planes in which these changes is happening. First is privacy specific. I mean, iOS is only the cursor, but there are at the below the surface. On one hand, there are consumers who are looking for greater privacy, right? There are governments which are trying to bring in greater regulations. I mean, GDPR was just the start of them, and we've had so many of them. And finally, there are browsers who are trying to self-regulate, including iOS. Google also, I mean, just postponed. But all of this is one set of privacy-related changes or disruption. On the other plane, we see an interesting, related but interesting change where consumers are demanding a lot of improved experiences and are willing to pay a premium for it, or say personalization. Let me give you some numbers. Research says that 80% of consumers are willing to pay a premium. Yet, less than one third of the companies have done material changes on personalization, and a minuscule number of consumers are actually seeing the benefits of personalization. So, mind you, while they want privacy, but they are willing to share personal data if they know that their data is being handled in a responsible and a trust-based manner and being used to give them benefit back in turn. So, on one hand, you have a disruption of privacy. On the other hand, there is a business opportunity or an unmet need, and bringing them together is the need that these marketers can convert into a source of competitive advantage.
Thank you, Vinit. I think on the same point, Anubhav, let me get back to you. How do you think these changes would begin to impact, from an ad business standpoint, and how should these companies manage these changes?
So that's a good question, Ashwin. Actually, I mean, see, these changes are quite massive changes actually that are happening to the ecosystem. Uh, they're good changes. I mean, I think honestly, in my personal opinion, there are a lot of good changes that we are going through. It required a hard nudge, I think, from partly from the regulators, partly from the consumers. I think for us to get there. But I think we are there, right? I think it obviously it's going to be a disruption in the short term. Loss of signal data will certainly diminish sort of ability to say deliver ads in a personalized manner as they used to be earlier, or optimize ads for conversion, or even accurately measure and report campaign data, right? So in the short term there is a risk that this can happen. Of course, if you don't handle it correctly, or if you're kind of sleeping to the reality for whatever it's worth, that this is happening, right? This is not a choice anymore. I think it's a matter of time. The iOS stuff has already happened. The Google stuff is impending. It's going to happen another year late, maybe, but it will happen. So it's they're committed to it. It's going to happen. So I think the of course businesses, and then there are like two sets of businesses. The way that I define them, basically, there is low signal dependence businesses where they're doing say more brand advertising, top funnel, don't necessarily focus on the end conversion as much, and are only say now trying to focus on end conversion in some ways. And then there is high signal dependence businesses who are very heavily data driven already, who use a lot of this stuff, right? And I think, and then there is a small third category, very minuscule category, which were genuinely evolved and have been using some of the new age solutions to combat these changes already, because the solutions to solve for this have been present for at least 2 3 years now. So it's not like the solutions have not been present. Of course, they were not as important to adopt. So I think people were not necessarily adopting them. Only the very few minority ahead of the curve people were adopting them. But I think now it's going to become very important for all the high signal dependence guys to act almost immediately. But sooner or later, I think the low signal dependence guys also need to kind of put together their heads around the changes, agree to what is the best strategy for them, and move forward in that direction.
Thank you for that, Anubhav. I think at least there is some hope that some of these technologies are already existent, and we will probably go through these changes. With that same thought, I'd like to get back to Sandeep from Facebook. He heads the GMS process for Facebook India. Sandeep, I think whenever we speak about data privacy, right now, as outside of my professional role as a consumer, Facebook is someone who is, probably the core thought leader whenever there are changes related to data privacy, etc. Right. So, how do you think your company is handling these changes or responding to these changes?
Hey, thanks, Ashwin, for the question, and great to be with you, Anubhav, Vineet. Thanks for joining. Um, so I think there are two concepts at play here, right? Um, I want my data to be private as a consumer, but if I tell you the right things about me, you can personalize your offering for me. So I do want to share data about me, about my interests, with those who will respect it and use it for things I want it to be used. I want those data points to be used, right? That allows for personalization. So the interesting play is consumers want privacy, but also 90% of consumers will tell you that they want 91%, in fact, from the last read that we had, they want personalization. On the business side as well, the ability to target and send communication appropriate to your audience, whether your community, whether your business, whether your NGO, is tremendous economic value because it prevents waste, right? And the point that was made earlier is therefore finding the right value exchange where personalization is delivered while privacy is respected actually is the space we need to get to. As uh, uh, as a platform where we are privileged to host billions of people worldwide, 400 million plus in India, we are very conscious that the first step is to give consumers choice. So if you go to Facebook today, um, you can go to your settings and you can ask, why am I seeing this ad? Or you can see off Facebook activity, which is which data points are being used, and you can decide what you want to do from there, including deciding what kind of ads you want to see. So at our end, we believe there's tremendous economic value and consumer joy to be created with the right value exchange between personalization and privacy. And on our platforms, we are very keen to give consumers all the choice they need to decide what they want to engage with. So that's certainly the Facebook view of the matter.
Thank you, Sandeep. I think you struck a chord with me because, for example, personally, I am someone who prefers customization over a lot of the other privacy-related regulations, and I would love to have that choice. Vineet, I wanted to come back to you, and Anubhav spoke a little bit about how some of these advertising companies are already well positioned in terms of the technology that they've already have in place, even with these changes, right? I wanted to probably pick your brains on uh, if you could detail out if there is going to be more technology transformation needed from them in order to, you know, get across these changes. You are on mute, Vinith.
Yes, Ashwin, thanks for pointing that out. So I think Anubhav did refer in his answer to this, but we do see a wide range of companies. The capabilities here demonstrate quite a bit of diversity. So on one hand, there are companies which are very basic, which just make their minimum understanding of the ROI to drive their marketing decisions, right? So if they do nothing, they will struggle on ROI measurement and then media mix allocation and so on and so forth. These will be the reactive companies. Then there will be some proactive companies, and there are actually quite a few of them, which are proactively finding and implementing solutions such as server to server side integration. So the loss of signals that Anubhav referred to can be avoided. And then there are those set of companies on one extreme, a small end, but the strategic companies who are choosing to use this disruption as a pivot and up the balance of first, second, and third party data, right? So everybody still has to use all forms of data, but the more you are pivoted to first party, the more closer one comes to the consumer, and the understanding improves. The value exchange framework that Sandeep just referred to becomes then a virtuous cycle. So that would be the other end of data. Of course, that requires for a whole lot of strategic changes across the organization. But this is a wide spectrum that we see. More companies, more especially in India, lie to the left-hand side, the more nascent side of the spectrum. But the time is now to make that shift and move rightwards.
Got it. Sandeep, when we are speaking again about Facebook, obviously, such a huge platform in terms of advertising, right? And obviously, our partner ecosystem in terms of these advertisement companies is also pretty huge and probably accelerating at a geometrical growth every day. Are you beginning to plan out on how do you help these advertisers in this sort of new world where these changes are rapidly happening every day?
Yes. Ashwin, again, like I said, we're privileged to be the home for, of course, billions of consumers, Facebookers, Instagrammers, users of WhatsApp. We were also privileged to be the home for small business. On our platform today, 200 million businesses reside. We are the home to them. When we think of, therefore, solutions, we have to solve for the largest companies and the largest advertisers, all the way to those who don't even advertise on the platform. More than 90% of businesses that we host do not advertise. And yet, they are able to use the tools and all of the features that the platforms provide. So we do respect the privilege of hosting really the largest number of businesses at the kind of numbers I'm talking about. And therefore, for us to think of scaled solutions that help businesses do this value exchange despite the changes in the operating systems or in the browser technology is therefore key, where companies can ensure that in a privacy safe manner their efficiencies don't go down. And there are now clear solutions such as server to server integration, and leaders in this space such as Anubhav have built out multiple possibilities for businesses to move on to those technologies, and I'll request Anubhav in a bit to talk about those. These technologies allow, therefore, constant progression towards a privacy regime while not losing efficiency. In fact, with the right set of technologies, businesses can increase their ROI on their digital spend. So again, privacy and personalization are not at odds, but privacy and efficiency are not at odds if we bring the right technology. Those tools exist today and they are relevant for the largest advertisers, but they're not difficult for today for the smallest businesses to get there. And to Vineet's point, the invitation I would certainly make is for those companies to make the transition now, because the digital ecosystem is ready to change. And it's not going to wait given the factors we just spoke of. So clear possibility to move further on this dimension to serve their consumers with the efficiency that brings the right margin structures and therefore economic value for the ecosystem.
Thank you, Sandeep. Got that. So, to summarize those changes, what's the horizon looking for you?
Ashwin, are you asking me?
I'm asking you, Sandeep.
Sure.
What does the horizon for you look like in probably the next?
I mentioned one piece of technology, and I do want to get Anubhav to talk about that, and maybe we'll get to him after this question. But fundamentally, privacy enhancing technologies are critical on our roadmap, and they work on multiple levels. They require industry to come together, and we are very keen to work with partners across to make sure that these technologies, the work that needs to be done, the investment that needs to be done, come together again on the three principles: personalization, privacy, as well as efficiency for companies. So we have a multi-year roadmap where we're going to work with multiple partners, and new technologies will continue to show up to take us on this path. And to Vineet's point, this is a bit of a inflection point for all digital industry, and therefore we have to move forward with fresh technology view, fresh investments, but the paradigm remains privacy, personalization, efficiency. So that's on the roadmap.
Got it. Balance. Anubhav, on the same note, trying to summarize the whole discussion. Um, Again, what do you think should be those final critical takeaways for advertisers in order to start preparing for a slightly skewed towards data privacy world?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a complete skew towards the data privacy, but not a slight skew, honestly. I think that's something that we need to accept first. I think really, I think at some level, I think the first and foremost thing is you mentioned it, Ashwin, but is start preparing, right? I think that's really like it's the four stages of grief, right? I think we can't be in denial mode anymore. I think we need to accept where things are. And as I said before, I genuinely believe they think they're for the best. Like, it may feel like disruption, it may feel like pain, it may even feel like short-term economic pain for some, but it's not going to be if we are basically starting to prepare ourselves today, right? I think that's like the first key message I would want to give everybody. In terms of tools, I mean, the tools are there, right? Like, so and genuinely they're not complex, right? Like, so of course you can have a lot of complexity around the tools, but if you look at it, there are very simple solutions like, say, conversion API from Facebook, or Google has something called Google server-side tagging, or there is Google measurement protocol. There is custom tools we've built on it, honestly, for companies. Something proprietary to us, which we called mid-funnel optimization, or MIFO in our internal lingo. I think we need to give it a better name publicly. But I think there are tools available which will stop signal loss today, right? I mean, we don't have to look at tomorrow. We implement it today, and I mean, and in all honesty, they've been available for the last 2 years, right? Like, so it's not like they've been made available today. So the changes have been long coming. I think it's our ability to start preparing. But if you looked at it from a large advertiser standpoint and a long-term standpoint, I think the other thing that they need to, I mean, we all need to realize is that it's going to be an increasingly first-party world. And I think Sandeep mentioned this, that value exchange against data asks is going to be critical, right? So, for example, strong loyalty programs are going to become critical in the future, because loyalty programs have a very clear value exchange, right? Like, you ask for data, and there is very clear sort of points or something that's a reward against it. There's a very clear value exchange around it. And I mean, like, I'll tell you, I love I mean, airlines have done like loyalty programs and reward programs for the longest time, actually. And I love some of the small things that they can give you, right? Like, it's beautiful. Like, airlines at a certain tier will give you a business class ticket, which doesn't put you a seat in business class. So you may be an economy class passenger, but because you are a certain tier, you traveled enough times, they will give you a business class ticket, which allows you to go into the business class queue, and it saves you that 15 minutes, right? And it's beautiful, right? The value exchange around it actually costs very little money for the company which is providing it, but it is a way of showing why I am going to care about what I'm asking you for, right? So I think will the larger enterprises, for sure, and I'm sure even most of us and most of the enterprises will have to think of first party data better. That see, again, I think this is it's not a tools and technology problem. Like, I think we always make it to be a tools and technology problem. I genuinely don't think it's a tools and technology problem. It's a transformation problem. It is a problem of us changing ourselves. I think this is how our world is going to look, or this is how we want to make the world look like. And I think that's the trigger point where we are at. I think the more we do, the better for us. The faster we do, the better. And I say faster because we still away, but time passes really fast, right? So it doesn't take a long time before I think 2023 is upon us, and I think the death of the cookie is upon us, right? So I think that's really the last message I would want to leave everybody with is start preparing. Like I think that's more critical than anything else. The preparation is not tough. The path is not super difficult, but the path needs to be traversed.
Got it. Very insightful, Anubhav. To summarize your thoughts again from all of you, do not be in denial. Start preparing in this first party world. Leave the choice to the consumer in terms of privacy versus customization. And then finally, just try and improve those experiences that can build stickiness with the customer. So I think with that, I'll end the session. Thank you for joining us. Everybody else in the audience, I think the next is the awards coming up. Again, hopefully I'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Thank
guys,
you.
and
Thank you,
enjoy your
everybody.
days.
Good day and good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you very much, Ashwin. Thank you, Vineet. And thank you indeed to all our panelists as well for joining us this evening. I believe that was a very crisp conversation and a very pertinent one. And as Ashwin had mentioned, I'm sure all of you are eagerly looking forward to the awards. But before that, we also have the final fireside chat coming up for all of you. So stay tuned for that. In fact, the next topic is around fintech getting it right with its marketing strategy. So let's bring on board once again Mr. Shalil Gupta, Chief Business Officer, Mosaic Digital, who will be in conversation with Abhinav Goel, Associate Vice President, Marketing, Digit Insurance. So time for another exciting chat before we actually take the excitement forward for the awards. And I'm going to hand it over to Shalil again. It's good to have you back again.
Thank you, Kavya. Hey, hi, Abhinav. How are you?
Hi, Shalil. Very good. How are you?
I'm very good. I have a very good question to start with you, actually.
All righty.
Uh,
I'm happy to answer.
no, but I think first introducing the topic is very important. So,
Absolutely.
I don't know why people still call it fireside chat. In India, we should call it iceberg, Himalaya. All of these are there. But why fireside? I don't know. But getting it right with its marketing strategy, and a fintech company like Digit Insurance, it is amazing to see. We'll talk about that a lot, in fact. But my first question to you, Abhinav, is you are an aerospace engineer turned marketer, right? I mean, this is a story to be told, man. How did this happen?
All right. Okay, I got into aerospace engineering by a mix of chance and interest. I did want to become an aerospace engineer, but I also got the right opportunity. Then got into it, worked for a couple of years for ISRO, and then, like it happens with a lot of people, I got caught by the MBA bug, and I just wanted to get out, taste the rest of the world, and see what's there in store for me. So. Uh, there again, I got lucky, got into one of the great schools, got into IIM Ahmedabad. So I thought, why not take this forward? And I had a little bit of a creative streak, so marketing was a natural way forward for me. Uh, that's how I landed up
But
in marketing.
it's not a small school here. It's I am Ahmedabad, right?
That's right.
I went to Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, but somebody did ask me, what have you learned in MBA? And I said to them, see, guys, I studied a long MBA courses to know what not to do.
Right.
I think that's my strategy. Whatever I have learned in MBA, I just don't implement, and I think I'm doing great that way. But these are jokes apart. Seriously, talk to me about Digit Insurance. I think it's a 2021 unicorn, fastest growing. I mean, so many awards. I mean, I can't really want to speak more about it, but so many awards have been given to you. There is a story behind. So first of all, let us know more about Digital Insurance.
Sure, absolutely. So I think this brings me back to what Prasoon was talking about. What's the genesis of the brand and the company? And when our founder Kamesh Goel, he's an insurance industry veteran. He was looking to start a new insurance company. The idea was that insurance is filled with jargon. It's filled with a lot of legal language. There's a lot of lack of trust between the customer and the insurance company. Uh, and this is for various reasons. So, what is it that we can do differently? Can we question what's happening right now? Can we say, does it have to be done this way? Can we not do it a different way? And then bring about those changes, bring about a different way of selling insurance. And that's what gave rise to this idea of simplifying insurance. It's all very complex. The terms and conditions are very difficult to understand. When I go to claim, I suddenly find out that these things are not covered in my policy. So we thought that the essence of the brand and this new insurance company should be to simplify insurance for everyone, and that's built on two very strong pillars. The first one is questioning the status quo, which I just mentioned, and the second is transparency, because transparency builds trust, right? So how do we be transparent with all our stakeholders, with customers, with partners, with employees? So these two pillars, and I'm happy to say that we've stuck to this strategy over the last 4 years, and it's worked well for us.
No, great to see such progress and many more to come, Abhinav. I'm all geared up for that. But last 18 months have been a very different month for the globe. Okay,
That's right.
I think we have seen a pandemic. Though pandemic itself sounds little negative story, but there's always a silver lining. And I think it is fair to say that a lot of people have taken a pivot, and the pivot was around customers' playbook has changed, consumers' playbook has changed. Though the digital is bringing the cost of service down, but then the balance of experience has to be given. You know, from your marketing perspective, your marketing lens perspective, how was that achieved? How was that journey being achieved?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, actually, because even before the pandemic started, like I mentioned, we were already thinking about how things are changing, how customers are actually demanding a different way of being sold insurance. They were ready to make that switch, but they didn't have the option to find something that was catering to that. And therefore, when we thought about simplifying insurance, we looked at what are the different ways in which we can do it. The first being, when you look at the policy document itself, when people don't understand it, can we make it simpler? Instead of having a 40-page legal jargon, can we make it a 2-pager that even a 15-year-old can understand? So we've cut down the jargon. We made it so simple that you can quickly understand. We give you, along with the official document, we give you a 2-pager that you can understand, that this is what I'm getting from this insurance policy. The second thing that we did is we created a lot of content that made it easier for people to understand, because I tell you, I spoke to a lot of consumers even before we launched our health insurance product. Some of the consumers literally told me that this process and all these terms are so complicated that मैंने छोड़ दिया. I didn't buy the health insurance policy because it's so complicated to understand. So we decided that it's better for, even if they don't buy it with us, it's better for people to understand what they're getting. So we made lots of content, a lot of blogs that made it simpler for people to buy insurance, understand the covers, understand the terms, all of those things. And we've kept that as the core of everything we do within marketing. And one of the big things here is that how do you bring the lens of the consumer? And that was fantastically achieved by having a marketing team comprised of people who are from completely outside the insurance industry. You'll find, like I'm an aerospace engineer, you'll find a lot of people from advertising, from FMCG, from we have somebody who runs their own NGO, right? So these are all people who came in with the lens of how an actual customer would see. They don't know insurance, right? So we brought in our lens of how it can be made simple, and that's the thing that's really worked. And over the last 4 years, that has been extended into many different things. Now we're thinking about how to simplify processes, and not just for the customer, for our partners, our on-ground agents, the companies that we have tie-ups with. How do we make it easier for them to sell policies, for them to understand our policies, right? All of those things. And that's how we've changed the experience that you were talking about, especially during the pandemic. I think one thing that stands out for me is right off the bat, when we were thinking about what we can do during this pandemic, and that this is in February 2020, we came up with the idea of a COVID insurance, and we were the first to launch that. And it was the natural thing to do. People were going to be at risk of catching COVID, and there would be a demand for it. So we came up with that, and we did a very quick turnaround, and it did really well for us. So
good to see. I think COVID insurance is not only from a business perspective, but from a social perspective was very, very important, and it has a huge positive impact on the social side. But okay, I'll go to the next question. Actually, it's very important. we have been talking about omni-channel a lot, right? And you have taken how many customers? Just give me an example of your customers' growth.
We have about 2 crore customers plus at the moment.
So 2 crore customers, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I have to analyze 2 crore customers on a physical perspective, I think it's impossible to do it, right? So one is, I'm sure, technology is going to play an important role. So talk about, how that happened in your organization. And
Sure.
second, it's not omni-channel now, it is omni-consumption strategy. Who's consuming from where, which part, which device, all of that matter. Context matters. I think, how
Right.
have you differentiated? How has that journey been?
Fair enough. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the first part of your question before you talked about omni consumption.
So I said technology would have definitely played an important role for you to move
Yes.
ahead. I think
Yes.
let's say 2 crore, can't be driven by physically, right? There are no enough
Absolutely.
resources at your end. You would have done it. So how would you have
Yes.
changes with technology? Yeah.
Yes. So we had the advantage of being 100% on the cloud right from the beginning, and this was the vision that the company leadership had from the start. That we don't want to have any paperwork. We need to be completely on the cloud. Facilitate it for everyone to make to issue a policy, to buy a policy very quickly, to do all the processes, especially things like claims, which is the moment of truth for insurance. Right, the consumption actually happens when somebody comes to claim. So that moment, how do you make it? How do you use technology to give a better experience? And we introduced claims that you can do with just your mobile phone. You can take a picture of your car, send us the pictures, and our AI actually can pass your claim in a very short amount of time without even having a surveyor. So these are the things that we started out with, and over time, what we've built is technology to enable partners to issue policies very quickly. We have an app for them. We have a fully integrated web portal. We have technology that lets you do everything on WhatsApp. You can actually buy, renew, claim just by sending us a WhatsApp message. So technology really has been at the core of our simplification strategy and making it accessible to everyone. The second part of your question, when you're talking about omni consumption, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand is that people are researching it in all different places, and like somebody else was mentioning in one of the panels, that the journey is not linear anymore, right? You're going to talk to your neighbors, you're going to talk to your colleagues, your friends, figure out a recommendation, then you'll search on 5-6 different websites. You'll probably ask your friendly neighborhood agent for recommendations as well, right? So yes, we recognize that, and what we've done for that is to make sure that we're available at all of these touch points. We're available to give you the right consistent information, and the choice then is yours for you to make where you want to buy it from. So you can buy it from our website, you can buy it from an aggregator like Policy Bazaar, or you can go to one of our many partners and buy it from them if that works for you.
Great. Abhinav, I think, going to a little more deeper
Yeah.
in the market, I think
Yeah.
the concept of market of one, the
Mhm.
concept of experience of one, and the
Yeah.
concept of customer of one is now the future. I think it's
Yeah.
very important for our audience to actually understand this concept. When I say this context is important, because relevancy of the content at certain point of journey is very important, and in that moment of context is also very important. Therefore, the market of one, experience of one, and
Yes.
customer of one.
Yeah.
Algorithms are playing a very important role today, right?
Yeah.
Mass personalization is playing a very important role.
Yeah.
It's very, but today, if I look at regulation laws, privacy laws, and so, there is a tug of war, right? And we have seen that, how do we manifest algorithms, making sure that mass personalization can be driven. At the same time, I am being pushed across data sovereignty, privacy information, and so and so. How are we balancing the two act?
That's a great question, and I've been listening very carefully to the panels that have happened before this, especially on personalization and privacy. Uh, I think I agree with a couple of things that were discussed. While we're still trying our hands, we actually do a lot of experimentation. Try to figure out what really works, what level of personalization works, And as an example, I would like to say that on digital ads, while we talk about hyper personalization, what we've noticed is that when you go very granular in your segmentation, the overall cost actually goes up. So we've sort of found a sweet spot by doing that experimentation and figuring out, okay, this level of granularity is good for us. But we do a lot more personalization when it comes to giving a good experience to our actual customers. So once you've bought a policy, we have some data about you. We know that we've collected the data that was necessary to buy that policy, and then we use that to customize meaningful content for you. How should you take care of the asset that you've insured, right? How should you suppose you've bought a maternity cover along with your health insurance, so understanding what are the waiting periods, what is the how can you avail of that benefit while buying a health insurance, all of those things. So we do a lot of meaningful segmentation based on that. And another thing I really want to point out here is that while it's tempting to do personalization and segmentation, as marketers, it's our duty sort of to understand when we make a segment what's going on in the mind of that of a regular person in that segment. So to mine the insight, to really figure out very astutely that if I've made this segment and I've done this sort of really small segmentation, is there really a difference in what this person is thinking versus my other segment? And if there's not, maybe I can club a few segments and then have a very clear insight about, okay, these are the people who think like this, or at this stage in their journey. You talked about relevance. If they're at this stage in their journey, suppose somebody is buying a policy and they came to your website and dropped out right after they saw a quote, right? So at that stage versus somebody who's dropping out, say after going to the payment page, there's a difference in what this person is thinking. There's a difference in somebody whose policy is expiring 45 days from now versus expiring tomorrow. So we actually think about what's going on in the minds of these people. What is the real clear insight that we have about this segment, and then does it make sense to segment them together? So that's the bit that we're focusing on.
I mean, I think my last very briefly a question to you. I mean, technology is a very important part of let's say marketing, let's say today. And in a digital perspective, I say content is God today. Until unless you figure out how to build that content and automate that content is very important. But when you're selecting a technology platform from a marketing perspective, from your own office perspective, what are the 2 or 3 things one should take care of?
Sure. That's actually something that I have been thinking about myself, because we've run through a lot of different platforms and eventually we started working with MoEngage. I really feel that insurance is very different from any other e-commerce or any other business, in that fundamentally for us, the customer will come once a year and then only come back the next year, right? And the relationship is a slightly more long-term relationship. Once you've got a customer, you probably they'll renew your policy say 2 or 3 times. So at least for 3 or 4 years, you're going to have them, especially in health insurance where the renewal rates are quite high. You're going to have them for a longer period of time. So you don't really, the customer is not coming back to your website or to your app every few days checking out what products you have. So what I've noticed is most of the tech platforms that are built for marketing automation have the e-commerce use case in mind, but they don't have the insurance use case in mind. So for a company like ours, and it holds true for most financial services where there are long-term relationships, that you need a tech platform that will take care of this, that will make sure that a person's information, their needs and wants are stored for a longer period of time, and you can develop that relationship over a longer period of time, as opposed to sending them a few days later again, sending them, hey, you were looking at this, hey, we've got something else for you. Because we have a limited set of products as well, right? So we have just 4 or 5 different types of insurance that you can sell. So I really feel like when we're looking at a tech platform, we need something that is tailored towards financial services, that keeps this long-term perspective in mind. That's the challenge that we face.
Thank you, Abhinav. Thank you very much. I've been told the time is up. We can continue for next 2 hours also, but people will throw us out. But
thank you, Shalil, very much, and I've really enjoyed.
It's a pleasure and honor to have you on the platform. And the journey of digital insurance is amazing. But I'm also liking the journey of Abhinav as well, from aerospace to now marketing. Thank
you so much. And to be present in this August gathering of very seasoned professionals, I feel very honored. Thank you.
No, same here. I mean, it's pleasure. We'll connect offline as well.
Definitely.
The only message I'll leave it for the people is make technology as much as invisible possible for the customers, and then you see the magic happens. And I think we have seen the magic from a digital insurance perspective. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Shalil.
Back to you, Kavya.
Thank you, Shalil, and thank you very much, Abhinav, for joining us this evening and for sharing your nuggets of insights. I believe that it truly sums up, for in a way, in a very enthusiastic manner for us to get forward with the awards. So with that, let's get the awards evening started. But first up, before we do that, I hope all our attendees managed to have some wonderful takeaways from all the sessions so far. In fact, on that note, what I'm going to do is also go ahead and once again take the opportunity to thank our partners, our title partner, Mo Engage, associate partner, Facebook, knowledge partner, Equitor. In fact, before we move forward to the awards, I'm going to thank all our speakers, all the moderators, our summit partners. And with that, let's also take a look at our partner, AV.
Choices. This one, that one. Look, there's another one. Hey, this other one's good too. The digital world has spoiled us for choice, shaping our lives and behavior, and in turn, has affected how we all choose and buy. Your customers are overwhelmed with choices, and they're moving towards brands they love, brands they're comfortable with, brands that they feel get them. So how do you make your customers feel loved? You have to know them, maybe even better than they know themselves. We at Mo Engage know just how precious this relationship is, and we help brands across the globe get a deep understanding of their customers and delight them at every step of the way. Let's look at two customers. This is Miss Precise, and he is Mr. Breezy. Miss Precise wants to buy headphones. She looks up her favorite brand and starts browsing, but she can't be sure until she actually tries it on. Mr. Breezy also wants headphones, but he'd rather wait for a sale. Looks like a good deal. Mo Engage gets them both. It brings in customer data integrated across platforms to make sure you have the most accurate customer profile. And our personalization engine, which delivers tailored content and product recommendations to every customer. Because we know, for you, every customer is special. Okay, so both our customers have their headphones on. Now let's put on some music. Miss Precise picks and selects every song. The sequence, the mood, nothing must go wrong. Mr. Breezy goes with the flow. He puts on the music, gets on with his day, and any song is good to go. Mo Engage tunes into both behaviors with intelligent segmentation based on customer preferences, so you can offer customers what they want, and a powerful analytics and insights engine that dives deep into customer behavior to answer every question that matters. Just like these two, there are millions of different customers with their unique needs, likes, and preferences. You need a partner that can help you engage your customers with the right message at the right time on the right platform. You need a partner who is obsessed with your customers so that your customers choose you. You need Mo Engage.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to now shift the gears and move forward towards our next segment of the evening. In fact, it's time to welcome you all to the Mint Marketing Awards. I'm sure all of you are equally excited, as Deepika Warrior had earlier mentioned, that yes, it's that time of the evening. It's a Friday evening wherein we come together to celebrate. So it's only befitting that we get started with the awards ceremony. While we do that, it's also time to set the tone for the awards evening, and for which what I'm going to do is quickly invite once again Shalil Gupta, the Chief Business Officer, Mosaic Digital, in order to set the context for the Mint Marketing Awards 2021. So let me again have Shalil back again. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you, Kavya. In fact, I was waiting for this moment to arrive actually. This is the debut version of Mint Marketing Awards. I think it is the objective of the inaugural award is to recognize brands who have been able to stand out amongst their peers by using marketing campaigns that impacted the success matrices, leading to the business growth during one of the most disruptive times in the modern human history. Our knowledge partner, Equitor Value Advisory, helped develop the methodology and carried the evaluation. The nomination process commenced in August 2021, and organizations were encouraged to nominate themselves. We received an enormous amount of nominations. We have got completed nominations of 114 companies. I mean, these amongst the various award categories which we created. A two-step screening process was conducted based on the information provided. The first was the basic information, and then we contacted these nominations to understand what they have done from a marketing perspective. Each nominee was evaluated based on a set of criteria with appropriate weightages. The evaluation was conducted using a 5-point scale based on the information provided. Brands that scored 4 and above were kind of shortlisted for the consideration of the jury. And out of the 114 nominations, the jury decided the winners of 9 awards, which we shall be announcing today. That's why I said I was anxiously waiting for us to announce the awards today, because this is a moment of truth where brands have actually shown how they can actually build campaigns, marketing, and reach out to the customers, whether B2B or a B2C, and in fact create in the disruptive environment a campaign which is highly impacted. I think those are the people we would like to award. But before we reach to the award part of it, I would really like to thank the jury. In fact, the jury, which was consisted of Prasoon Joshi, he doesn't need any actually introduction. Chairman, Macon, World Group Asia Pacific. Tanya Dubash, Chief Brand Officer, Godrej Group. Deepali Nair, CMO, IBM India and South Asia. Siddharth Rao, Group CEO, then Stu. Kainaz Karmakar, Chief Creative Officer, Ogilvy India. Bhaskar Chakravarti, Dean of Global Business, the Fletcher School. And Harish Bhatt, Brand Custodian of Tata Sons. I was part of the jury, friends, and each of these nominations were so difficult to choose the best among them. I think, fair to say there was deliberation, discussions about the impact. People and the jury have actually gone down to a level where they have seen videos, they have seen images, and how the campaigns were built, how the impact was created, and what kind of impact was created. It was the most difficult choices for the jury to make, I must say. Most of them were very good. I think they have to choose one, and it's like, among the equals, which one I choose. I think that's the case I would define it. But I would like to thank jury as well. They have done a tremendous job for us in terms of choosing the winners, and the 9 winners and the 2 categories and stuff. So with this as an introduction, I'll hand over back to you, Kavya.
Thank you very much, Shalil. In fact, taking a look at the jury members, a stellar jury there. So I'm sure we're all eagerly excited to find out the winners for the evening. So thank you so much for setting the context as well for the Mint Marketing Awards. In fact, I believe you will be joining us, and along with you, I'll also be inviting on the main screen none other than Shrutijit KK, Editor-in-Chief Mint, to also please join us here in order to give away the awards. Hi, Shrutijit. Good evening.
Hi. Thank you, Kavya. Thank you, Shalil. It's good to be here.
Lovely indeed. All right. So without any delay, let's get it started. In fact, attendees, please do take note while we will be announcing the winners. That's the organization's names. We'll also be hearing from the winners themselves, in terms of the win, in terms of the strategy, the process, and more. So without any delay, let's get started. Here we go. In fact, our first category for the evening. The first category, ladies and gentlemen, is content marketing for B2C. And the first award in this category is for the best innovation and creativity. Ladies and gentlemen, and the winner is Colgate-Palmolive India Limited. Well, that's right. Colgate-Palmolive India Limited having achieved a revenue growth of 37% in a market that has a low purchase involvement in just 4 to 5 months. We're going to invite Anand Taparia, Associate Director, Marketing, Colgate-Palmolive India Limited, to please join us here.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Anand. Good evening and mighty congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you, Kavya, and thank you, Shalil, Shrujit. It's really, really nice to meet you, and I think it's indeed an honor to be on this privileged stage. And I just heard you talk about the 114 entries and the top 9 out of them. I think it's really, I think this is in a way a good recognition of all the effort that the team that is behind the scenes of creation of this brand that happened over the last 12 months. I think for us to be over here, getting a recognition from a jury, which is as august as we saw just now, is a really, really big deal. So thank you so much for having us here.
Shalil, I think you're on mute.
Many, many congratulations, Anand.
Thank you, Shalil.
All right.
Congratulations, Anand. Congratulations to you and the entire team behind this campaign.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Anand, for joining in and for sharing your thoughts. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's move forward as well towards our next award winner. In the next category, we're talking about the second award in the category for the best use of influencer marketing. And the winner is Ambuja Cements Limited. Ambuja Cements Limited. In fact, about them, if I have to share something very important, is that in an industry-driven offline, they actually managed to not only onboard more than 60,000 influencers with digital tools, but also provided them with insurance and upskilling opportunities. We have with us Umesh P. Soni, Joint President and National Head, Technical Services, Ambuja Cements Limited, joining us this evening. Hearty congratulations, sir, to you and the team.
I think
sir, you're on mute, sir.
So thank you so much, Kavya, Salil, and Sujit. I think we are very honored to be here on this platform, Mean Marketing Summit 2021. And we are really thankful to the jury members who have really gone into details and recognize our initiative for value creation for all stakeholders in the construction industry, and in the center, they are influencers. In fact, I have read somewhere that growth is byproduct of visibility, but I have added with one more sentence that sustainable growth will be byproduct of value creation. And we have tried to do so on this digital platform, the influencer who is the key to the construction sector, and we are very proud to be here. And I also thank our management and entire team, as you rightly said, behind the scene of their efforts and thought process behind this to making this program a success, and also a winner of Best Influencer Marketing Award in this very prestigious summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Umeshji, for joining in and also sharing some very important pointers there. So on that wonderful note, ladies and gentlemen, stay with us, and I hope you are also cheering for all our award winners while you're sitting at the comfort of your home or your office. Let's quickly move forward towards our next category, and the second award category is Marketing Cognition and Technology for B2C. Now, the first award in this category is for the Best Digital Strategy. And the winner, ladies and gentlemen, is Ashirvad Swasti Milk. Well, Ashirvad Swasti Milk, in fact, broke the trail barrier of the milk industry and reported a 42% increase in brand awareness by utilization of multiple digital platforms. We're joined by Chandan Kumar, brand manager of Ashirvad Swasti Fresh Milk here. So firstly, Chandan, a warm welcome. And let's just see, let there be light on the screen.
Yeah.
That's a plan.
I think his camera shutter is on or something like that.
Oh, is it? All right. Okay. Chandan, if you can hear us. Chandan, if you're with us, if you could say a hello and we'll get to know that, okay, we just need to get some tech spec right.
I think we should move on. I'll get a check with him on tech check. Yeah.
All right. Not a worry there. But congratulations to Chandan and his team at Ashirvad Swasti Milk. With that, let's also move forward as well. And let's move on to the next step.
Kavya, before we move on, I thought since Chandan couldn't make it, I thought we'll give a quick commentary on how special this particular category was. In fact, both Ambuja as well as Chandan's company did some very innovative stuff. The way Ambuja turned the meaning of influencer marketing into something else altogether. They turned their on ground distributors into influencers through a very interesting innovation that came in for appreciation from the jury. It was looking at the category itself through a very different light. And in the case of Ashirvad Milk, it was even more interesting. Actually, they instituted quality checks at the ground level, which allowed them to capture the imagination of customers. Led to strong growth in that particular segment, in that particular geo. So both these came for widespread appreciation. I was hoping that Chandan could be able to come on and tell us a little bit more, but I just thought I'll add that commentary to the award.
Thank you, Shrutijit. In fact, while we are talking about Ashirvad Swasti Milk, you managed to give us some fresh insights into the entire understanding of this particular category. Shalil, if you wanted to contribute something, I believe you wanted to share something.
No, I think before I could speak, SK has already shared everything which was part of the deliberation of the jury. So I think those categories were very difficult categories to choose. Let me say this way, and the impact itself have been a very high, very unique way to look at it. I think those were the characterization which was done by the jury. I think Chandan could not join, so let's move ahead. But many congratulations, Chandan. If you can hear us, it's a great win for you guys. Congratulations.
All right, then am I also echoing? Not as yet. All right, let's quickly move on then to the next category over here. And while we'd like to also congratulate Ashirvad Swasti Milk, let's in fact move forward to the Best Integrated Campaign. That's our next award in this particular category, Best Integrated Campaign. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen, the winner is once again Ashirvad Swasti Milk. Well, in fact, the innovative Doodh Ka Report Card, that was a campaign, ladies and gentlemen, Doodh Ka Report Card campaign that triggered a 25% increase in revenue. I do wish that Chandan could have joined us, but again, double whammy it is, so mighty congratulations to the entire team again. All right, then. Yes.
It's a reflection of the year that went past, that we had companies really doing innovative stuff like this. Because it was COVID, there were challenges with regard to reaching audiences, etc., which, this is a fact that was discussed during the panels earlier this evening. But I think particularly because of that, we saw some, very out of the box thinking. And I think Ashirvad was very much, it stood out as a great example of that. So kudos to them, and I think unfortunately that Chandan couldn't join, but yeah, well deserved award. Oh, Chandan is here.
Oh, I am really sorry, hello guys. I'm really sorry, the network issues.
No worries. Glad you could join.
So firstly, Chandan, hearty congratulations to you and the entire team. And if you'd like to quickly share a few words as well about the win.
Chandan, we can barely hear you. I think there's a connection issue at your end.
I'm guessing the connection is not as healthy as Ashirvad Swasti milk. So we kind of lost out on Chandan there, but I'm sure he would have definitely wanted to thank everybody, and I'm sure sometime or the other we'll get to also hear from him probably in the future. All right, so with that, let's quickly move on to the next category as well, and it's time for the category we're talking about, content marketing for B2B. Now, the award in this category is for best innovation and creativity, and the winner, ladies and gentlemen, Team Computers. That's right. The idea of lease a laptop for the price of a cup of coffee a day. That actually led to a 100% rise in revenue, meanwhile helping hundreds of SMB survive during the pandemic. We have with us Sagar Kukreja, marketing head of Team Computers, who's joined us in. Hi, Sagar. Good evening and congratulations.
Hi. Thank you, Kavya. Thanks, Shelly. Thank you, Surajit. First of all, thank you for this special recognition for this award. And thank you, Mint, for organizing such a great event. It was really, I must say, a good, last 3 years, hearing from all the marketers from different industries, how the marketing is transforming. It has transformed since last couple of years and how it's going to transform in the next couple of years. Shalir, I want to add something. I would say that you would also agree to that. We all have heard that term digital transformation in last 2 years, right? I would say that the digital transformation happened in different functional areas in all the organization, right? The digital transformation also happened in the marketing as well. We as marketers were put in a hot seat where we were not able to use a traditional approach, especially in B2B. In B2B, we used to do a lot of events, physical events, used to call our customers, right? And we were put in a state where we have to connect with all our customers virtually. So I would say that's why we all saw in last 2 years all the organizations, the creativity coming from different organizations into marketing. So thanks to COVID, I think COVID has really transformed the marketing, that creativity as well, given a rise to new evolution of marketing through digital, through social media. In fact, the messaging as well. We heard in a panel that the simplicity, the marketing has gone into a simple way. The simplicity has come into marketing. So thank you so much, Mint, Sujit, Shalil, Kavya, for such a recognition.
Many congrats.
And to your entire team.
Congratulations once again, Sagar, to you and the entire team. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts. I think, as Sagar had also mentioned, along with our panelists, that customers are seeking simplicity. So wonderful indeed. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, well, as we congratulate the winners so far, let's quickly move on to our next category. And our next award category is Marketing, Cognition and Technology for B2B. Now, the first award in this category is Best Storytelling. Ladies and gentlemen, and the winner is Hindalco. Hindalco it is, in fact, using challenging real-life events to tell an incredible story. The hashtag Women at Hindalco campaign is one of the most powerful campaigns that the B2B world has ever seen. We have with us Charu Gaunial, Senior Vice President and Head Corporate Communications Hindalco, joining us here. Warm welcome to Charu. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. In fact, I thank you on behalf of my team and the women at Hindalco. It feels really great that our company has been recognized for this particular campaign. What makes this award so special for me and my team is that we were literally and only just the storytellers. The stories did not originate from our corporate centers, but they came from our minds, our townships, our shop floors. These are stories of real people, our people. These stories came through long conversations. At that point, we weren't sure what kind of an impact they would make, how would they be received, but we were very clear of one thing. We would not airbrush anything. We would not kind of, change facts or, trying to, make things look good. We would not water down anything. We wanted to show reality in all its shades. So in one story, there was a father and a manager who were not very comfortable about women working night shifts. That was a reality. But there was another story where managers supported women to operate machines, heavy machines, for the first time during the pandemic. That was also a story. In fact, we even had a colleague who said he wasn't very comfortable working with women because you can't lash out at them and because they're very emotional. But you also had a manager who encouraged them to work in searing temperatures and roll out 105 aluminum slabs in a day, setting a new record. So these were real stories of our people. And I strongly believe that the reason why this campaign really drew such a wide appeal and had such a memorable impact was that it had something that a lot of stories today lack, and that is that ring of authenticity, that sound of credibility. It is not the packaging that made the content resonate with our audience, but it was the heart of the story. And there was a lesson for me and for communicators like me. I feel before we become communicators, we need to become great listeners. To tell great stories, you need to go behind the scenes. You need to go deep into your organizations and discover the stories that truly exemplify your corporate brand. That is our job as communicators. And it goes without saying, it's such a huge honor to be recognized by such a jury and by Mint. It's an enormous validation to us that we are also on the right path. To my colleagues, Prerna, Anoma, Mamta, Akansha, Mona, Shreya, Abhipsa, Richa, Vaishnavi, your confidence, authenticity, and daring continue to sustain and enthuse us. And this award truly belongs to all of you. And I know you're watching us there. Thank you so much.
Many congrats, Charu. Many congrats.
Congratulations, Charu. I have to say this was one of the most commented upon categories. Your campaign was loved by the jury. I particularly loved that. I mean, it really addresses a very contemporary issue, right? I mean, women's participation in the labor force in India is among the lowest in the world. Within that, in particular, women's participation on factory floors in manufacturing is particularly poor, and due to all the reasons that some of the reasons you mentioned, and the other reasons that are well known. We love the fact that you addressed it through this campaign, and also the results that were driven by this campaign. So truly, this was one of those entries that was loved by all.
So if you ask me what were the numbers and all, we were never really looking at that. It was the conversations that it sparked. I mean, working on the shop floors, obviously, it's no rocket science today, but it's not a cakewalk either. And that is something that we wanted to showcase. And it changed things not just externally in sparking those conversations, but even internally. And I really kind of appreciate our leadership. They had no hesitation in telling us, just go ahead, and we need to have these conversations. So as a result of this, even our hiring of women engineers has gone up. We've even got the permission of the Odisha government to let our women work night shifts there. So this is an impact that we never really dreamt of, but we just started by wanting to tell the story and have people talk about the real issues they face. So I'm really glad that these stories struck a chord with all of you. It means so much because we're going to go back and continue this kind of storytelling.
That's
So
absolutely
thanks a
beautiful.
lot. It means a lot to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you once again, Charu. Real people, real stories coming there, ladies and gentlemen. What a beautiful campaign there. And on that beautiful note, let's also move forward towards our next award in the category of Best Integrated Campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, Best Integrated Campaign, and the winner is Automation Anywhere. Well, Automation Anywhere, in fact, registered an increase in revenue of 40% by using 4 channels of execution, namely media, digital, field, and partner campaigns. We also have with us Anish Tambi, Director Marketing, IMEA, Automation Anywhere, joining us here. Yes, Anish, firstly, congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you, Kavya. Thank you. Thanks much. So apologies, I'm at the airport after a long time, and on the background noise, just checking in. But overall, it's been a great effort by the whole team at Automation Anywhere to bring the whole message of what automation can do to enterprises, and we're very happy that we are able to get this award. So thanks, Shalil. Thanks, Srijit, and the entire team for this for noticing us on this one.
Anish, does your mask have Automation Anywhere logo on the side?
Yes, yes, exactly. I just thought I would not.
That was good, SK.
I would not break any laws in a different country, on a foreign country. I still keep the brand intact. So yeah.
Super, super. Congratulations,
Anish.
Congratulations,
Thank
congratulations, Anish.
Congratulations, indeed, Anish, and safe travels as well, considering you're at the airport, I believe. But on that note, huge congratulations to Anish and the entire team. And with that, let's quickly move forward to the next category, which is for the best digital strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, and the winner is CalSoft. Well, CalSoft, in fact, achieved the remarkable feat of registering a 400% growth in revenue while converting the company from an outbound to an inbound sales organization. I believe that we also have with us Sominath Nag, Vice President, Marketing, Head of Marketing Function at CalSoft, joining us this evening. A warm welcome, sir, and congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, Kavya and KK and Shalil. Good evening. So obviously we are very happy to be here and receiving this award. So first of all, I would like to congratulate all the award winners who was on the award today. And the second thing is that we are grateful to the jury member, respected jury board members, that for selecting us, and it's a great honor for us. So today I'm really immensely happy and humbled to receiving this Vint award for best digital strategy. And this award is a big picture of what we believe in, who we are and where we are progressing. Let it remain a persistent reminder that excellent teamwork comes with an unbelievable achievements. So this actually the digital strategy initiative that we have taken is sort of not a short-term journey, it's a long-term journey. And we have identified major milestones, and we are sort of halfway to the journey. And what we have realized that if you have belief, you follow a process, you follow tools, and you automate things so that you can achieve more, the results will come. So we believe strongly that results are the byproduct of the processes that you follow. So if you have a right strategy and right process for executing that strategy, use the right kind of tools, and obviously I think most important, then I had a great team, and I have a great team. So without their support, and it would never been, and many things were new for us, including a lot of tools that we have used during this period. We have never used it, and there is no time for us to really wait for a long time to understand, go through the training and picking it up. So we have just dirtied our hand, picked up the tools. We made mistakes, but we have also corrected our mistakes and moved forward. And at the same time, I must also mention that the support that I got from our CEO, CEO, CFO, right, for all these experiments, buying new tools, using the new tools, or running new campaigns, we always had a free hand to do that. I think that helped us to, be where we are. And, I hope that we will continue in our progress towards our progress. And we'll probably have a similar or better performance next year also.
Many congratulations.
Thanks, Shalini.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Once again, congratulations, sir, to you and the entire team, and some wonderful lessons that we've also managed to gather from the leader that you are. So thank you once again for joining us this evening. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope that you managed to take some interesting screenshots of all your team members, all the winners here, and you're also tweeting using hashtag MintMarketing2021 and tagging us at @LiveMint. While we do that, let's also come to the final category for the evening, which is Brand Marketer of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, and the winner of Brand Marketer of the Year is Automation Anywhere. Automation Anywhere, once again, in fact, one of the largest account-based marketing campaigns ever that targeted more than 1,000 plus clients. So yes, we have Anish again joining us. Anish, congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kavya. I'm more than surprised and honored by this. Again, as a young tech brand, I would say we've been striving to get the right messaging out, and still striving to get all the pieces together. But overall, the recognition from Mint is just commendable. A lot of encouragement from the team. So all I can say on behalf of the entire team at Automation Anywhere is thank you for recognizing the work, and looking forward to doing more work in this space to keep us the flag moving forward. So thank you very much. Apologies, I'm just at the airport and just not in a space to talk through in a maybe this is the way times to come. We had a big conference in Dubai. I think things are coming back and looking forward to that. More of those.
Anish, I'm waiting for you to come back. We have 2-3 parties to be taken from you, so I'm just holding my patience there. But many congratulations. It's a great win, I must say. The brand marketer of the year is a top rated, let me say, top ranker perspective. And I'm sure when SK will also agree with me, it was a huge discussion among the jury as to which one to be given, why, what has gone into it. And must congratulate to you again for winning this award, actually.
That's right, Shalil. Also, the choice of a B2B marketer as opposed to B2C marketer for the top honors, goes to show the effectiveness of your campaign and how the jury felt about it. Congratulations, Anish, to you and your team, and safe travels.
So thank you. Really appreciate it. Really proud to get the award, and more courage to the team. Thank you very much. Thanks for the honor.
Congratulations again, Anish, to you and the team. I think that's the beauty about virtual shows, is that you can also log in from anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the beauty about it. Had it been a physical show, we probably would have missed listening to Anish. So yes, indeed. But with that, we come to the end of the awards, the Gala Awards evening as well. Shalil, Shudhijit, anything to sum up? Any last few words for the evening?
Well, I'll just say that, this is the first year, I'm sure, as Shalil has mentioned previously, this is the first time we are doing this. We launched it with with great ambition that this will go on to become a truly coveted honor. But I think in the very first year itself, we managed to get together an impressive cohort of winners. Goes to show the quality of inputs that came in. We were very clear that we want the shortlisting to be done by a very rigorous process, and our knowledge partners at Equitor, along with our internal teams, made sure that happened. We were very particular that we wanted to have a top flight jury weighing in on the awards and picking the final winners. Mercifully, and as it tends to happen in these situations, racing against time, we managed to get the kind of prestigious jury that we wanted. And in the end, we had a intense jury deliberation. Salil can vouch for that. And I think overall, everyone, all of us internally, as well as the jury, I think we were all quite pleased at the outcome, and I think it indeed shows in the quality. I think this year took a lot of ingenuity, and I think that is really what has been rewarded. The jury looked at the results. The jury looked at how people had thought differently, with the challenges that they were faced with. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that first year for us, we were keen on a few things, and I think in the end, all of it came together quite nicely. And congratulations to all the winners.
Thank you. SK, I think I will just leave one message, guys. All 114 nominations which came just proves that how well we have pivoted ourselves when the disruption happened. And the disruption was not for a short period of time, it happened for 18 months. It was every nomination. When I went into the details and I saw that, it was killer actually. Jury faced a lot of difficulties to choose the winners, but for me, I think all 114 were actually good winners. I mean, the way they have done the campaigns, the way they have reached out to the customers, the way the messages have gone out, the story has been told. I think tremendous job being done. So thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you very much, Shalil. Thank you very much, Shrutijit. In fact, with that, it's time to congratulate all the winners. But I do hope that in the next edition, considering that this edition went on so beautifully, but I'm guessing we are all eagerly waiting to meet in person, celebrate in person. So hopefully that should happen in the next edition. Considering Anish has also started traveling, so many of us have started traveling, so why not? Let's do that probably in person. But with that, thank you very much, everyone, all the attendees for joining in, and congratulations once again to all the winners. With that, we call it a wrap to the Mint Marketing Awards 2021. I'm Kavya Shavli signing off. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Take care. Good evening.